Good morning and welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Hi, Ravi. How we doing?
Oh, just a Thursday.
Yeah. It's good to be here.
We got a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. That was I know you're not going to be head over heels over hockey. That was a fantastic.
I was watching.
I mean, it lacked a little excitement because the Oilers pulled away, but you had 2 goals in like the first 4 minutes. Then, the crowd they had a guy.
Mhm.
Hockey fans sometimes when you get people near the glass,
Yeah.
they get a little squirrely.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So they were doing like an in-game interview, and this guy was like making faces. He was like he was doing the blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah, and he was a hat backwards guy. No offense to any of you guys that wear hats backwards, but I mean he had on the big orange and blue beads, and his wife's probably hammering like her 18th Molson, or Labatt Blue or it's something because I mean she had a big one. I was like, I wonder if this ding dong knows he's on television acting a fool.
Oh, he 100% knows he's on
But
television.
that crowd was unbelievable,
Yeah.
and I saw one of the greatest give and goes for a goal from Draisaitl. It was a little 2-on-1. It was a shorty, and it was so pretty. I was like, this is a extremely difficult sport.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, going tape to tape from like me to that stairwell, which is, you know, 10 feet
Mhm.
on a dime for outlet back to me, score. It's like that might be as pretty. I wanted to put it on Twitter, but I just didn't know how many people could appreciate it at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Like, we ain't watching hockey here in Omaha, Nebraska. And I mean, I get it.
I
Right?
mean, probably.
50 some odd thousand people are followers. It's not just here, but
Yeah.
like it was so pretty.
It's probably, I would guess your following has more hockey fans, like enough people that would appreciate it.
It was sensational. So I felt like it was good hockey. Plus, there was no association basketball.
Yeah.
The Mariners were playing in a snoozer. I only have to pay attention to them because I need to be kicking myself if they make the playoffs versus if they don't because I did not put them in the postseason.
Yeah.
Um,
After you bet on them last year.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's your fault.
What'd I do?
Where were you?
Where was I win?
Where were you last year when I was making bold proclamations?
I didn't have this job yet.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's why I don't know where I was.
Yeah.
It's doing risk management somewhere, probably. If I had to guess.
You know what the risk management should have been?
Getting you not to pick the Seattle Mariners.
Risking working with me. That's what you should have been.
I mean, that's what I'm doing now.
Where's the along came Polly guy when you needed him? What was his name again? What's his name? Jerry Stiller?
Ben Stiller. Jerry's his dad.
Ben Stiller.
Yeah, he's the younger one.
Whatever. Ben, Jerry.
I
It's
thought
an
you
ice cream.
I thought you meant his name in the movie, and I was like, I'm not going to come up with that.
I don't know. But the reason that along came Polly and risk management is funny is because
He's like an actuary in that.
no.
Oh.
I wanted to talk to Mike Farron, who looks like the Let It Rain guy.
Oh, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes.
R.I.P. Pour one out.
Yes. Mike Farron. What did he say, Shane?
Mike Farron's alive. Philip Seymour Hoffman's not.
Mike Farron loves DB, and I love Mike Farron. We have like a lot of those guys that are mainstays in my former life. Man,
those are your guys.
Yeah, but I like to I like to see people flourish too, right? I'm not a hater.
He said he'll be on next week with us.
Yeah, he is hilarious.
Well, he's a
great.
West Coast guy, right? So we gotta work the timing out.
At least he's covering the West Coast this week.
That's where he's at this week for MLB because he does. But he's also working for Sirius and doing college baseball, and he was doing his stint with the Diamondbacks. But you know my favorite thing about Mike Farron?
What's that?
This is what we always used to talk about. Because it got to be more than just baseball and college baseball.
Mm-hmm.
It got to be like lifestyles and he's a Baltimore guy.
Farron?
And he got on me one time. This was probably like 14 or 15. He got on me one time about me saying that Baltimore was our kids aren't still in school, right? They're at home chilling.
Should be at home.
Baltimore at one point in time was like the STD capital of the world.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was having this stint the wire it wasn't hot and heavy, but people love the wire. This is people still love the wire.
Yeah.
But this is like 13 and 14, so I was talking reckless about Baltimore.
Sure.
The wire being overrated because I hadn't seen one episode. I never wanted to get into it, whatever. And my man hit me with a text. And it's early. I wasn't even off air yet. And he's like, I grew up about a block and a half from where a couple of those scenes were filmed.
Oof.
And I was like, oh, my bad. Why do you have a grill in your front yard? We wouldn't do that in Nebraska.
Man.
But it's like they had like this little itty bitty plot of grass and like this big angular brick.
Yeah, because there is no backyard.
It's weird.
Yeah. Well, like the row houses or whatever, there's really no backyard space.
He's like one of the
alleys.
He is one of the coolest people ever.
Yeah.
I used to always go mess with him in the press box. He always had this wild hair and he looked kind of disheveled, but he's hilarious.
I'm just saying, if he
and he used to always make fun of Nebraska football. He always had Bo Pelini jokes.
If he grew up in that part of Baltimore, I'm probably not messing with him.
Nah, he's a great dude.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not like messing with,
So next week, Liquidy. That's Liquid
He's doing some good things.
Liquid Shano here to unclog your mornings.
Yeah, he'll be on next week.
Okay. Well, how are you
go.
feeling? You always ask about me. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. You got no food, so I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Did you eat it in the car?
No.
What's happening?
No.
We had a little. Listen, last time you did that thing, you didn't feel well. Like I have another thing that you can munch on if you need to in the car.
No, it was just a little bit of a rough diabetes night. Had a little low blood sugar in the middle of the night.
Yeah, you look sleepy.
So not great, but we're all right. We're doing good.
Do you want my other saved pack of, as our mutual friend would say, gummy lifesavers? I'm so mad at him.
Maybe we'll see how the blood.
They're not gummy lifesavers.
No, they were pretty good.
Thank you.
They were pretty good.
I think they're sensational.
I think I think they're built up more in your mind.
I know.
Maybe.
I always worry about setting it too high of an expectation.
But they were good.
Yeah.
The texture was really good.
Yeah,
like the consistency.
So that's what I was trying to explain.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't say that either one of those two words.
The flavor is, I think you called it their makeup, and I was like, okay.
Oh, he feels just fine.
Well, the sarcasm's the last thing to go.
I was looking for him yesterday in Lincoln, but I didn't find him.
The consistency is good. The flavor's like pretty normal for a candy. Like I don't think the flavor's
watch yourself
above me. Although I did like the lemon one. I really like lemon candy.
I do not. Typically anything yellow stays in the pack.
Ooh, see, I like lemon.
Yeah, not your
citrus
boy.
In general, like orange, lemon. It's kind of my deal.
Orange is my favorite flavor Gatorade.
Okay,
but I do not. That's not in my candy wheelhouse. I only know like a couple of candy connoisseurs.
Yeah,
Jessica Cootie is a candy connoisseur. Oh yeah.
I wouldn't call myself a candy connoisseur. Most of my going back to the diabetes thing, like most of my candy consumption happens out of necessity, not out of.
So it doesn't work like it does in the movies where like people collapse and then you like roll them a lifesaver or a sucker and they eat it and all of a sudden they spring up like Paul Blart, Mall Cop or something.
Most of the time, if you actually collapse from a low blood sugar, like that's you're feeling that all day.
Really?
Yeah.
My poor mother-in-law.
It's like if I have a.
She's the bad one. Which one is that? Type 1?
Yeah, that's me. Type 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the type 2 isn't serious, but type 1's insulin dependent. Your body makes no insulin. So you have to do injections, you have to do whatever, right?
Yeah.
Type 2, your body still makes insulin, just doesn't get it where it needs to go very efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where like that's actually where all the, like the Ozempic stuff started. It's for type 2 diabetes. And it's super effective at that, but that also happens to make people lose weight.
So now I'm reading all these. Well, actually, I'm TikToking.
Yeah.
All these downsides potentially of Ozempic. So in like 10 years, are people just going to like have a horn or be like those frogs with 4 arms?
Probably not.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, like,
is that safe?
Growing a horn is I think probably a pretty big leap.
Okay, extremists. I get you.
I mean,
taking me literal.
That's the example you gave me.
That's cool.
No, I mean, like it's any new medication you're gonna have.
It's a challenge.
You're not gonna know what happens long term until you study it.
Will you be like the people that they advertise for, like if you use baby powder when you were young, and all of a sudden you can go see the lawyer? You know what I'm talking about?
Hopefully, yeah, I do. Hopefully not.
Oh, there's so many common things. Hey, were you ever around
Well,
air?
so most of those things are like
weed killer. I mean, there's just a whole list of that stuff.
Yeah, most of those things are like, hey, we sort of used poison in our product. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Hey, Shane, I'm gonna need you to. I'm just saying this because I'm looking at you at the angle with the light. You're gonna have to do something with that Paul Skeen look, with your mustache. Like grow the rest of your hair around it or something, because that thing right there is weirding me out. It didn't.
Is what it is.
It didn't hit me yesterday. Have you noticed that?
Let me see it.
Shane's got a pop
up a little bit, Shano. A little more.
Yeah, that's a little skeeny.
Thanks, everybody.
I mean, Skeens is a little more flushed out.
He dealt yesterday.
Yeah.
Who'd he beat? Shane. He beat the Tigers.
He did. Didn't he hit a dinger yesterday? I think he went yard yesterday.
Wait, he did?
I think so. Skeens on his birthday.
Oh, he shares a birthday with Knucklehead?
I think so.
Well,
it might have been two. No, whenever he pitched, I think he hit a dinger.
Well, he pitched yesterday.
I'm gonna look it up. I think he went yard yesterday.
Did you see your guy soft tosser get lit up by the Brewers yesterday?
Who's my soft tosser?
Imanaga.
Oh yeah, my soft tossing lefty at 95 miles an hour. So dumb. No, so it wasn't yesterday.
To me, that sounds soft.
No, it was because I would have.
Oh, doubleheader. There was a doubleheader. My bad.
Yeah,
I was first one they got.
I'm like, what would he do? What would he be doing hitting now? You know, everybody uses a DH.
I thought he went yard.
No, that might be one of the. So you said like 336 ridiculous things. Not that I'm counting, but that would have been the most ridiculous.
I saw a TikTok where he was hitting.
Have we not learned that TikTok is not like?
You mean Luca wasn't telling people it's a white man's league now?
Dude, I was in tears. At least I knew it was AI this time.
Yes.
Though.
Yeah. At least you didn't send it to me like, did he really say this?
Is that my voice?
No, it's not.
That thing wet.
That's just my guy gets fooled by the internet voice. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was AI. I don't know.
Hey, so I thought of you yesterday while I was in Lincoln.
Yeah?
Yeah. So the first guess who's kind of taken, and it was only 3 of them.
Yeah.
But he's back in town. Guess who led Coops in Caleb's workout?
Is it your
fresh off the press of us talking about him?
Levante?
Nope. Give me another one, Bo.
Is it Giff?
Taylor?
Nope. No, it wasn't Giff. Wasn't Taylor.
Kenny.
So the guys that I was thinking of are Giff, Singleton, or Tommy Hill.
Singleton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those are the guys we talked about.
This is funny. Kid goes, man, he looks like he'd be a mean guy.
Yeah.
He's actually pretty soft-spoken, pretty nice.
See, that's what people say about me, but I actually am mean.
Yeah, that's 100%.
It's fun.
I said there's only a couple of mean guys in that secondary.
Yeah.
And he's met both of them. Singleton isn't one of them.
Who are the mean guys? Who's got the disposition?
Gifford.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, and Malcolm's a nice guy. He just doesn't talk a ton. And that, you know what? Unfortunately, that may be about it.
Yeah.
Buford's got a great personality.
Yeah.
He and Coach Rule have a pretty cool little thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can like lean on his shoulder and, you know, rub his head. Like it's a cool dynamic.
It's a good relationship.
Yeah, and I asked too. This was a long time ago. It's interesting how coaches can make that work now and still demand excellence.
Can I tell you a secret?
Like the deodorant?
I
used to use it for dudes, but I found another one that's similar.
I don't have a problem using women's deodorant. I don't care.
Whatever.
Works.
My favorite is a women's deodorant.
Whatever.
But
works.
anyway,
it doesn't matter to me at all.
Yeah. It's the Skinny Degree shower clean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
They always could have done that. They were just a-holes.
Coaches?
Yes.
That's a little harsh.
A lot of them were just a-holes.
How you just matter of fact like that?
Oh, that's kind of what I do. Like, let's be like it always.
Here we go. Give it to me. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. They're just a-holes. Like, listen, you always could have been nice to your players and had a good relationship. That would have been fine. Always. You know what's never not worked? Building good relationships with people.
Here we go.
You know what often doesn't work?
Why is it that 9 out of 10 things that I ask you, or even bring up just randomly, in which you have no idea, seem to low-key have been like this hot spot for you growing up. I'm just kind of moseying on along, and you're passionate now on the fly about coaches building relationships.
Yeah, because they're so like I hated.
Here we go.
Hated coaches
Selfish.
Like just the guys that are just yellers for no like, and not saying you can't yell.
Yeah.
But the type of guy I'm talking about where it's like an authoritarian regime.
I watched,
whatever the hell it is.
one for about a year, and I could never understand what he was saying, but he talked the whole practice. Phil Almatian was a guy that talked. He could talk for 60 minutes, and I have no idea what he said. It's in the back, and on the top. I'm like, what? What is going on?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you say that? Can you repeat that?
I just watch. I was shoot. I used to be afraid. I never said anything at practices unless it was unless it was like Keith or somebody.
I'm trying to see where Phil is now.
I don't know, but how many jobs had he had when he got to Nebraska?
He's 73.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize he was that far up there.
He doesn't. He's not like a Belichickian in his 70s. He doesn't act old.
Yeah. Mm-mm. I mean, is he more like a Pete Carroll?
Yeah.
Like kind of like spry and
still can't. But is Pete landed yet? I'm still mad he doesn't have a job.
He is, I think, technically a front office consultant.
I thought he was going to turn that down because he was mad at Julia.
I don't know. Last time
Julia must have Alan. I'm talking about, by the way. You're like, who's Julia? Not Gulia. No, not Julia Gulia. Quick, what movie was that?
Julia.
Shane, what movie was Julia Gulia?
I got nothing.
I'm not sure.
Comedic.
I figured.
He has curly hair.
He
just recently, in the last 5-6 years, started doing more serious movies.
I need a little more than that.
He sang a funny Hanukkah song.
Oh, Adam Sandler. Julia Gulia.
Who was Julia Gulia? You have like a 100% chance of getting it right. Who's the only woman?
It's the school one.
Who's the only woman he ever does movies with?
That's not true.
I mean, 80% of them.
Oh, Drew Barrymore?
Yes.
So we're talking 50 First Dates?
Nope. Good call.
We're talking, was it Blended?
Nope.
What else? Wedding Singer?
Very good.
So
her last name would have been Gulia had she married Ravi.
That's with a B, not with a V.
That's fine.
To be clear, I've only seen Wedding Singer once.
It's kind of low-key funny.
It was like that era of Adam Sandler movies, it wasn't I liked Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore way more. So like I gravitated toward those two.
Yeah, Wedding Singer, it was pretty funny.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't like in my wheelhouse.
And on this flight, he gets to do first class, gets to do whatever the Billy they want to. I was like, I don't know. Billy Idol does movies? Yeah, Billy Idol was on the plane in the very end.
Mm.
He took the microphone.
Yeah.
You don't really remember.
It's been like at least 25 years.
It's okay. I'm not mad if you don't give yourself a refresher.
It's probably not going to happen.
I just had to get you off of railing on coaches that were mean to kids in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, sorry. I just want people to, these people in these hugely influential spots, I'd like them to, have,
be nice to the kids.
Have relationships with the kids at least. And here's the other thing, right? Is they'll see a good coach yelling at somebody, but they don't understand that that's not how they operate 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Right. Like you earn the right to hold people to kind of a higher standards, like we were talking about with Rule and Buford, right? Like because they have that good relationship, if Rule needs to get after Buford, he can.
Yeah.
And he knows it's coming from a good place. You know who people who don't know it's coming from a good place? When all you do is yell at them.
Which reminds me, and I know you're not neck deep, but Knobloch for
Chuck?
Chris.
Oh.
With a K.
Okay.
Kind of like Severe. Chris
Okay.
with a K. You should see him with Edmonton. He looks like he's kind of one of those cool coaches. He reminds me of what's his buckets from the Timberwolves.
Oh, Finch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that kind of new era.
Is
like
Patella still intact though?
Yeah, that was nasty.
That was gross. I don't like that at all.
They had to help your boy off.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Those patellas, those explode on you. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, Will.
Yeah, I think so too.
I know, Art. Shane, don't let me leave without checking on him. Speaking of exploding, did you watch any day baseball yesterday?
I had it on in the background. I wasn't.
So at one
watching
point
closely.
before I had to leave for Lincoln, I was going to lose my mind when the Mets pulled back 3 with the Dodgers, and then the 8th inning happened.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's just in baseball. In baseball, when an inning gets away from you,
it goes bad fast.
It can go bad in a hurry.
See you later.
Right, and the ball was just
And how often is it? I didn't watch this game.
3-3 went 10-3.
Just full disclosure, didn't watch that game, but
Hater.
I just didn't watch it.
Probably busy doing other things.
Looking
to see why Liam is starting against Florida.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Hey, so if you listen to the show, which hopefully you do, it's a good thing that we don't just read headlines like some other folks, because we talked about with Fitty, like the good potential that Cags doesn't start.
Yeah.
Right. And then we got into how Nebraska would have to play that game. What did I say? If they were Florida hits a lot of bombs, but they don't play a lot of high scoring games.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska can play a low scoring game against that, especially with Liam.
A lot of solo dingers.
Yeah.
For
that was fit. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of solo dingers.
So that's why, So keep listening. We try to give you some insight. That was a total. I did not think they would start Peterson, but I knew there was a chance they wouldn't start Cags because they're situational with him.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know if it's strange, but like most people
don't.
Well,
the cool thing is, what Fitty and I were talking about is that game will be played how Nebraska wants to play it, hopefully.
Yes, which is obviously a good thing for Nebraska.
Yeah, gritty.
Like you can grind that thing out.
Yeah.
That gritty gang.
We'll get to that later.
There
you go, hashtag gritty gang. That's just my own thing.
I know.
That will never catch, but I wish it would.
We've got lots of baseball guests coming up. We've got, of course, the one and only Ben McLaughlin. He's at 9. Before that, we will talk to who we talked to before that? Steve Sipple. Steven Sipple. Husker Online at 8:30. Then we got, of course, our Thursday regular, Brian Edwards. As I mentioned, Ben McLaughlin from Husker Sports Network at 9. And then we'll talk to Kevin Brockway. He covers Florida for the Gainesville Sun. So we will talk to him at 9:45.
We're going to get you ready for the showdown tomorrow at 2.
Lots to get to. And we buried the lead. Surprise, surprise. Something happened yesterday. We got to tell you about it. I'm shocked. I'm stunned.
I'm shocked, chagrined, and dismayed.
I have no idea how this possibly could have happened. That's DP. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We'll have more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We already got the lineup out in the first segment because I'm a professional.
That's what you do.
Nailed it. Got it done. Thought you were going to fist bump me, but you're just messing with your volume. It's fine.
I can't fist bump you over that.
I just thought.
Are we trending yet? Because I think we missed it yesterday.
Missed what?
The lineup in the first hour or the first segment.
I have no idea. I'm not even sure if I gave up the lineup yesterday. I think we just started talking to people.
Yeah, it might have happened.
I don't know. It's it catches me off guard sometimes.
Somebody officially called me crazy yesterday.
So you got to keep your head on a swivel.
I deferred. I blamed you. I think it might have been TK.
You always blame me.
Oh yeah.
For when the nonsense happens.
I mean, just go back and listen.
I'm just saying you're an active participant. That's all I can say.
Not always willing, but I am active.
You are active.
and why do these people how about Shane telling on me that I'm not in the stream?
Well, people like to see your bright and shining face early in the morning.
I don't know about all that.
It's a little, it's like a little jolt. I don't even need their morning coffee. They're like, oh, there's DB. Let's go.
Hey, Shane, stop telling.
Well, I mean.
Well, you should read the text that I got.
Our boss is coming over. Our boss is coming over later. She's gonna.
She can't fix my email.
I think we figured out how to fix it. Actually,
yeah, whatever.
I think we did.
I think she just hits copy from the text that she sends me the day before.
It's a process. That's funny.
Well, here's my daily reprimand of dealing with an idiot.
Speaking of dealing with idiots,
wait a second.
Okay,
though.
Sorry. I thought that was a good segue, but.
Okay, never mind.
You knew where I was going. Do you know? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you go.
I'll find a different segue. It's fine.
How come I never get invited to anything with our work? Like, do I not seem like a practice kickball kind of guy? Do I not seem like a guy that wants to run out in the grass with a bunch of coworkers and kick a ball that doesn't fly straight? Like, why wouldn't I want to do that?
I'll be honest. It doesn't seem like you would want to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't. But that's like the 13th. That's like I at least want the opportunity to say I'm not coming.
So, to be fair, that was a fairly impromptu gathering.
Oh, weird.
It was just like, hey, everybody's at the office. We're gonna go play kickball.
If I wasn't the literal black sheep, I'd be at the office a lot more. What? It's okay.
You can't have sheep at the office,
didn't
or
know
I
what?
guess not.
I didn't know you were a sheep.
That's fine.
Be the wolf.
Oh, you ain't got to worry about that.
You
got to worry about
We're
that.
saving you for the real kickball game. It's a week from today.
I'm beginning to develop a complex. I'm like, I must be the not fun guy. But technically, I'm like the only funny guy over there.
I thought you were. I'll be honest. It didn't seem like you were going to play kickball. Like that didn't really seem like your vibe.
Me and Lucian.
You and Lucian?
Yeah, I like.
You gonna play kickball?
I like Lucian.
Yeah.
Well, I like Lucian because he's very. He just does he's a good person, right? Like.
Does what he needs to.
Kind of got a thankless job, and
He's doing some
yeah,
good
he
things.
helped set up here early.
Yeah,
got the audio ready for the flash drive and stuff. He hit the, I was a little upset. He turned on the red lights.
Yeah, you don't like those.
Yeah, I'm like Lucian. Like, hey man, wasn't my call. I was told to do it. I knew right away who was running that show.
No big deal.
Wasn't me. Unfortunately, it's all right.
I'll make sure you get.
Make
sure you get.
I already chastised Sasha.
Make sure you get the kickball invite.
I almost cussed at her twice without using a cuss word yesterday.
Like,
well, the other time was Melcher's fault.
Yeah,
I got into him.
Yeah, I know you were mad at him.
Yeah, say man, don't do that. And you know what this dummy said?
What?
I didn't know that was your boss. I hit her up every year. I say, hey, I talk to you every week. Go be a Berean, man. Do some homework. Stop going over my head. And then he hit me with a love you gif. I don't know if he really loves me.
I don't know.
But we will talk to Anthony Tolliver next week.
Kind of like Bob Knight. Not really sure if he loves his players, but we'll see.
Well, you're on that.
Kind of seems.
Hey, listen. Respect those that are no longer with us.
I don't have to. I thought there's a lot of people that are dead were bad people. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like,
I'd like to refer to this whole thing from start to finish as a real Mickey Mouse operation.
Yeah. Like, what do you want me to do here? Stop. A lot of bad people are dead.
Stop.
Not gonna.
Shane, you just had that on a humbug?
That was pretty good.
My man.
That was pretty good. I'm not gonna. I mean,
boy, Shane is wild.
he was on.
How about them apples?
Wow. All right.
I'm just saying, you're not telling me there's anybody alive today
I'm not saying that.
that you would like. I'm not even talking about like dictators and murderers and stuff.
I'm not saying
But
that.
like, there's just some bad dudes out
I'm
there.
a bad dancer, so I'm certainly not hitting on anybody's grave.
You know, like, listen, you don't have to dance on their grave, but I don't have to bring them flowers either.
You don't bring me flowers.
That's Miley.
No.
No, that's I can buy my own flowers.
I can't remember who sings that. But it's okay. I can't read. Stop
it.
it.
I'm just saying.
That's why people think we have issues.
Can
you imagine this with a Rorschach?
No, I would just be like Dion being a Richard, Trev being a Richard, Bob Knight being a Richard. That would be my Rorschach test. That's that.
Hey, well, Ravi, tell me what you see here. It looks like Bo Jackson being overrated.
What's up, girl?
Looks like a bus. I mean, looks like Bo Jackson.
Bus like in Canton?
Oh,
well, he's never going to get one of those. I think you have to play more than 38 career games.
Here you go.
I'm just, unless there's like a section of like woulda, coulda, shoulda Hall of Fame, then absolutely. That's my guy.
By the way, I'm pretty peeved that everybody thinks they're going to be awful this year.
Who?
The Steelers. How are you going to pick them to finish last in that division?
Hear the words.
They're going to be better than Cleveland.
I could buy that because I hate Deshaun.
And everybody, you're just penciling in the Bengals to be that team? They can't even get their top 2 wide receivers in camp.
Fair. Also, I have no idea if Joe Burrow is going to stay healthy.
Or can they protect him?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Like, the amount of disrespect is hilarious.
I think there is a world in which they do finish last. Don't know.
I could see it too, but it's not practical.
I don't know that I would.
It never happens.
Pick them to finish last.
It's fine.
I would probably say second or third. I don't know which.
Guess what? That's why they play the season.
Cleveland's last.
It's fine. Penciling in the
do you want to look at the schedule? I know you love looking at schedules.
I've looked at our schedule.
You want to go through wins losses because I know that is your favorite activity.
No, I'm gonna punch you right in the face is what I want to do
I
right
don't
now.
think you want.
I kind of
do
want to,
that.
man. I don't like what you just said. I gotta turn my fuse down.
You
Sometimes.
love looking at schedules. It's your favorite thing. You're just like,
Look,
hey,
everybody's darling, the Indianapolis Colts. That's right. They're starting a guy at quarterback who's uber talented, but's played all of 3 games. Pencil them in for 10 wins. But hey, not the team that never has a losing record because they're awful.
I'm not penciling in.
Look, here we go. Right on cue. Right on cue. You can't make this up. Pittsburgh Steelers, 7.9 wins equals too low. It's way too low.
It is not optional.
I know.
To this day.
All right, now you're gassing me up. Let's simmer down over there.
Donna Summer. Indy is way overrated. I still don't know if Anthony Richardson is a good quarterback. I have no idea.
I do like their roster though.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he's not a good quarterback, it's not going to matter.
Tony Rich Project.
Tony Rich Project? I don't know what that is.
Nobody knows it but me.
Anthony Richardson Project.
Like a clown that put on a show.
Who's the clown here?
Pain is real, even if nobody knows. I'm dying.
Pain
inside.
or paint? Like face paint for the clown?
Don't put that crap on me.
Remember that word you used off air? That's what you're being right now.
Hole?
Yes. Yes.
You can't say that.
Really?
No, I didn't. You did.
Really, really kind? Is that what?
No.
Oh, I don't remember what I said. You'll have to remind me later. We're gonna.
Oh, I'll do that. All right.
Well, I don't have enough time to get into what I wanted to get into now, but that's okay.
You were just gonna complain about people you don't like.
No, that's the rest of the show. I had something specific for this one. Although, never mind. We'll get to it in the next segment. It's fine.
We needed to do something.
I know, and that was give John Cook a raise.
And a horse.
Dude, he is the GOAT.
How big
he should have bought a goat. That's what he should have done.
He should be like, I need a horse, but I also need a goat.
Take the proceeds.
Buy me a goat.
The retention. Just go get you a goat. Put a cowboy hat and some boots on that thing.
Harder.
Isn't it amazing how he's made that a shtick? The West,
yeah, Cowboy Cook.
Yeah.
It's harder to ride a goat.
I've never tried.
I haven't
I bet
either.
in some third world countries, you think they ride goats?
Maybe like children. Goats aren't that big.
Hey, Timmy, take the goat to the mart.
Usually they're selling the goat at the mart.
Oh, and probably not named Timmy either.
It's, the goat doesn't make it. I'm just saying that's my understanding. What happens to goats at markets?
Right.
I don't know.
It's the highest paid in the country, though.
That's right.
We probably need to talk about that with that robust athletic budget we have.
Well deserved.
Oh, he is the GOAT.
Let's get that man a horse.
A goat.
No, but he's getting the horse.
Horses are expensive too.
They really are. That's why he's probably like, hey, I've got my eye on this one. He named a specific horse, which is incredible. It's an enormous flex. Coming up next, we got more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
The string continues.
Welcome back.
Don't shoot your shot early.
You know all about that, wouldn't you, Shane? The Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. How are we doing this morning?
We're fine.
Good?
Yeah.
We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube on the Pillar Exterior stage. You know who shot their shot a little bit early?
Who's that?
Louisville Police Department.
Oh, victory lap for Ravi.
I'm just saying. All charges were dropped against Scotty Scheffler yesterday.
Hey, can you, before you get started?
Yeah.
I want to do this, but I'm going to need you to do it. There's a stray hair right underneath your microphone.
Did I get it?
Nope.
Is it sticking out? What's
we
happening?
get it during the break. I'm just going to try not to look at it.
Hold on. Let me like do the mirror with the StreamYard here.
Okay, go ahead. Dude.
Hold on. We're going to do this.
Yeah. There you go.
That thing wet.
My man, thank you. Just giving me the willies.
Got it. All right. I mean, listen, this thing gets a little you got to be careful. It's got a mind of its own,
There's a lot going on.
I got the beard oil, I got the comb, I got the brush. It's like a whole process.
I have beard oil too, and it doesn't work.
Mine does pretty good.
I should probably commit to it though.
Yeah, you got to use it regularly. It's not
Yeah, I'm probably
one-off.
twice in the last 6 months, so that might have something to do with it.
Are you like that guy that's like, hey,
I don't like my face oily.
Are you like, hey, I went to the gym and nothing's really happening? They're like, how often? Like, I went twice in the last 6 months.
Wow, you're just relentless. it just comes so naturally to you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm here. It just freely flows off your tongue.
I'm
Just the snark.
I'm like the Emperor in Star Wars. Let the hate flow through you.
Jeez.
The
Just right. Just don't even skip a beat.
yeah, that's my bad.
Yeah.
The all charges were dropped against number one player in the world, Scott Scheffler. Scotty.
I think he can be his own who he wants to be.
Yeah, it sounds.
He's one of those guys that's going with the E as a grown up.
Yeah, it sounds weird to call him Scott Scheffler.
Nobody else does.
Yeah, it sounds odd, but
I bet on tour they call him Chef.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Everybody calls him Scotty or they call him Chef. Calling him Scotty Scheffler makes him sound like he plays t-ball. But Shane liked that one.
Dude, this show.
Did you try to tee that up for me?
This is incredible.
You mean teed up like in golf? So I find it interesting, and I haven't seen TK in the chat yet. He's our local almost lawyer.
No, that would be Tony. Tony is right there with you.
Okay. No, but I mean TK is he's gonna be a defense attorney.
You mean literally?
Yeah, he's like literally almost a lawyer.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a defense attorney, I think is what he said he was gonna go into, which God bless you. And also God help you. But I'm just curious how often it is that you go from felony assaulting an officer to all charges being dropped.
Do you know when that happens?
When they bleeped up?
Yeah, when you don't have your camera on.
Yeah.
Like
we got reprimanded for, by the way, the officer that didn't have his camera on.
So once that happened,
it's over.
It's over.
And then the camera and witnesses that were there were like, yeah, I don't know what that report says, or I don't know what that report's saying.
So I think the most damaging thing with that, because I mean, people were like, the audio or the video wasn't.
Nothing happened.
No, well, what you couldn't see was, and I did like the eyewitness reports where they didn't know if he was running alongside and slipped, but he wasn't on the vehicle.
No.
So if he was running alongside or whatever, and that was on him. Okay, I get that too. But at no point did I think, at no point when we were having any of those conversations was I like, yeah, he jumped on the car.
That's fine.
Like I told you, like, I just didn't think that was going to happen.
That's totally fine. The problem here is the person that filled out the police report.
Yeah.
Does know what happened.
Yep. And
does know that they were not dragged by Scott Scheffler's vehicle.
So, because that word was used, right? Dragged was used.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the no cam is it's a death sentence. And Tony sent me TG sent me the ruling in court. The judge was like, "Hey, this case is dismissed," and I'm like, "Yep, that sounds like a guy that it's going to be your word against whatever." And what's out there that the mayor was so like, "Wait, that's what we're talking about?
That's it."
Like without the camera being on? Yeah, that's no good.
What it felt like to me was,
you know what's funny?
What
is you said, "Oh, it wouldn't be the first time folks have conveniently forgot to have their camera on."
Yep, certainly wouldn't be, and wouldn't be the first time that when they forgot to have their camera on, the police report was not an accurate reflection of what appears to actually happen. Because what it seems like happened is he knew he didn't have his camera on, so he thought he could put whatever he wanted in his police report, being too dumb to realize there were going to be other cameras. That's what it feels like happened to me. Is this guy was like, "Oh, I ripped my pants because I fell down because I'm whatever."
So you think he's just embarrassed?
Yes. I think he was embarrassed. I think he was mad power tripping over Scotty Scheffler.
God, it's been a long time since I heard that word.
Power tripping?
Yeah, it used to be in a lot of raps.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I would know.
I mean, not that it would be the first time that somebody in a police of authority had a power trip either, right? Like, that's what it felt like to me, is that he had this power trip over like, "Oh, you can't do that," or maybe he didn't like whatever happened in that interaction, but whatever happened in that interaction clearly wasn't dragged.
So what's interesting is I bet when Scheffler said in his deal, hey, it was confusing, it was chaotic, I bet you he didn't even know
why he had been arrested.
No, what happened to the officer, right? Because let's just say, he's driving and guy's running along and maybe he slips, like the patron said, or something when he stumbled by the car
or whatever. Yeah,
I bet you Scheffler didn't really know, ooh, did I bump into this guy, or was he losing his mind? Maybe because he doesn't know what's going on either.
Yeah, maybe. You know what I know didn't happen?
Yeah,
what the police said happened.
So I understand. What do you want me to
No, I'm just you don't have to think any kind of way. You can think whatever you want.
So you went from, this is just interesting. You went from, hey, I let my biases get in the way, and I'm like, hey, that's cool, no worries. We're just trying to hash through this. You don't have to do that. I got your back, your family. To now are you banging your chest or not banging your chest?
No, I'm mostly mad at myself for not running with what I thought happened in the first place.
Well, I mean, in your defense, that would have been the first time you were right out of the last 20. So if I were you, I'd be a little gun shy.
It certainly wasn't that. You know what it was? Totally honest. I didn't want cops mad at me. That's it.
No, that's cool.
That's the whole thing.
And you said that, and it broke my heart. And I don't mean to be a gump, but I knew that was bugging you. You were like, I just don't want law enforcement mad at me locally.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, the good guy, and I said to you, I wish you would have just said that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because that's so disarming. And they would agree with you.
I know, so my best friend's dad was chief of police in Omaha.
The good police officers would agree with you.
And he's a chief of police now, out of state. He is a great dude, one of my favorite people. They've always treated me like family. So it's not just I'm afraid of law enforcement being mad at me. There's a lot of people in
there are a lot
life
of good people. See, that's how I feel.
that I love dearly.
That's how I feel.
That I would not ever want to think that I think of them that way. Because you know what has happened in the past is I hear people sometimes paint with a broad brush when they're talking about either minorities or other people.
That was what I wanted to guard against. That right there
is painting with a broad brush, right?
Yep.
And so
because I've been on the receiving end of that too.
Yes, I've been on the wrong side of that, where it's oh well, you don't really seem to like this group of people, but I kind of look like them.
Yep.
What does that mean you feel about me, right? And so I didn't want to do that to police officers.
No, I get it.
But at the same time, and it being in Louisville did matter for the way I felt about it. I had a feeling about the way this likely went down, because it seemed really unlikely in my mind that Scotty Scheffler dragged a police officer with his car.
But I never. So there's a couple things at play here. Number one, I kept telling you, don't allow yourself to think that way. We don't know if he jumped on the hood of the car or not. I said that from the jump. So I didn't want people to just take the words and run until we actually knew what happened. Because at no point did I think he jumped on the car. None.
Right.
But I want to go back to something.
Yeah.
I told you this was a fantastic exchange that I had from, I almost want to say my buddy. I feel like he's my buddy. He's not my buddy. I don't know him. We met through DMs.
Sure.
Right. But I told you my buddy Josh, let's just say Josh, said, and I didn't read it in its entirety, but I told you what he said, right? He works for a precinct in the northeast corner of Nebraska. Said he just caught up on the show. He's a couple days late. So we've been going back and forth for a couple of days. So he sent me this deal, but I don't have Facebook. But this was what he said. He said, I saw this on Facebook. I saw this on a Facebook page I follow, and it reflects how I feel about the incident. And it's very, very well articulated. I thought you might appreciate it. Sometimes cops let their ego dictate their actions. And while we are still human, we need to conduct ourselves in a way with the highest level of professionalism. I couldn't read it then, but then yesterday he sent me screenshots of the Facebook page. And it was basically, good cops want cops that aren't good cops to pay the price for not being good cops.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing. And I just was like, okay.
And that's way better articulated, as I felt like his ego got in the way of his decision making.
Yeah.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla. We are live on the Pillar Exterior stage, and I know a lot of you are headed to work right now. Make sure you're listening to us, obviously, but as you're driving, hands on the wheel, eyes and focus straight ahead. The driver has one job to do. That is to drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. DB.
Yes.
I think Greg Sankey's up to some stuff.
See, you know
what?
I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah.
But at some point, you just need to be like, man, this dude has been trying to tell me this for 2 years. What's gonna happen with this deal?
Yeah, but I don't listen to you.
It sounds cool to be a part of the cool kids club until you're not one of the cool kids anymore.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think Greg Sankey here is he's definitely the leader of one of the cool kids clubs.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's angling to be the leader of the entire cool kids club. We've heard a lot about, possible separation of college football off from everything else.
Yeah.
And then you've got Greg Sankey saying things like, he would welcome a national standard, that he wants to be a statesman, yet forceful.
Yeah.
What does that sound like to you? It sounds like he's running for something.
Listen,
is he up for election? Did I not know?
I just don't know why we didn't see this coming.
I mean,
I
think we did.
No, Mr. 27,000 team playoff, Mr. Power 5, Power 3 conference.
Hold on. Two things can be true at once, okay? Two things can be true at once.
This ought to be
Number
good.
one,
This ought to be good.
Always thought Power Conference football was splitting off. I didn't know if it was going to split off with college basketball. I didn't know if it was going to split off without college basketball.
Yeah.
But that seemed inevitable. Okay? What that looks like, I don't know. But I don't know. Advocate, because we're getting into a conversation that I actually wanted to get into today. So that's incredible. What happened there? You all right? You got a little.
I felt like I had a Ravi on my face.
Well, you don't. You would know. I'm a big boy.
OMG. See, this is why I can't be on camera. Let me turn my Wi-Fi back on.
So as
can you see Chris just breaking through the doors like, dude, can you just do what you're told?
Yeah, you gotta be like the Huskers. Just do what you're told.
Sorry, Chris.
Just keep showing up on camera.
I'm gonna get it right.
I
need one of his stress balls.
I think it's just a tennis ball.
No, he always has something in his hand.
It
could
like
be
a tennis ball.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
I want to chew my ice, but I don't want to do it in the microphone.
No, you shouldn't do that. That'd be terrible. Hold on. You need to fidget with something? You need my keys?
No,
I'll find you something.
I need you to be a normal person.
That is not going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, that ship has sailed years ago. You should have met me before I got divorced when I was pretending to be somebody I wasn't. So,
I know all about that.
I mean,
we'd have been a couple of great pretenders. Is that a song?
It's a band, The Pretenders. 5,000 Miles. It's The Pretenders.
I thought that was the Proclaimers.
Oh, it is the Proclaimers. There is a band.
The Pretenders is a
band though,
but it's a female lead singer. I think
you're probably right. You're right. That is the Proclaimers, Shano.
Yeah, I know that, and
I got my PR bands mixed up. Give me a break.
Shane, cut it.
Yeah, cut it out, Shane.
Minority is what I was going to say. Although one of my fellow minorities checked me.
You're not allowed to listen to music as a minority or what?
No. It's just T-Mac being T-Mac.
Certain types.
So the DJ can't spin. I guess not.
So you know about like power tripping and raps, but you don't know about 5,000 miles. Is that? I was trying.
Sometimes, so I got all kind of music.
I was trying not to paint with a broad brush. I thought we were just, you're pretty versatile. I thought you might have a little range on the. Hey, see you. Have a good day. Love you. Bye.
I got it all. See you. Have a good day.
We were so close to getting to the point I wanted to. We were right there.
To this day.
I wish you understand I wish you could understand how periodically I just want to choke the life out of you. It like comes in these fleeting spurts. That's all I could do to control myself right there.
That's good to know. I'll like keep my guard up a little bit.
I'm like,
I'll keep my head on a swivel.
Just getting killed on my own show.
I got a thick neck. I'll probably be all right.
You killed everybody.
Killed everybody.
Stop it.
And then again,
So Greg Sankey. Yes,
this is incredible.
So two things can be true at the same time.
So let's get over that.
Just like DB doesn't want to be around me, but still loves me.
You keep telling yourself that.
I mean, you hang out with me voluntarily. So
are you kidding me?
That part's like the show might not be on you, but the extra like hangouts, that is on you. So, so what I was saying about college football is I always thought it was going to break off in some degree or fashion. And yes, I did advocate for more teams in the playoff.
Yeah, you were one of the few early. Like you went from 8 to like double digits.
I wanted 16. I wanted 16.
I'm like,
but here's why I wanted 16, right? So because I thought power football was going to break off, and I didn't necessarily want that, the reason I wanted 16 was because I believed giving a seat at the table to Group of 5 conferences would allow them potentially, at least give them the path.
Are you combining revisionist with what you know versus where it's headed? Because I don't think this is what you thought early.
No, for the 16 team, this is 100% what I thought.
Okay, go.
I wanted and you'll remember when I get through this, you'll remember me talking about this probably. But the thing that I wanted was equality of opportunity for teams that were not Power 5. I wanted there to be a chance for a Group of 5 school to be what Gonzaga was to college basketball, where they were this mid-major, low-major, nothing program, and through being successful and getting an invite to the dance and having a path to an invite to the dance, raised up their program where they are now a high-major program regardless of their conference. I wanted Group of 5 teams to have that opportunity, and to me, the only way for that to happen was through some sort of automatic bid process to the championship. That's why I wanted the 16. I understand your points of, hey, there's not always there's very often not 16 good teams.
So that wasn't even really my thing. Number one, I didn't want auto qualifiers.
Fair. Okay.
So, and I didn't want auto qualifiers without a sets like.
So that was your big thing, is you wanted everybody playing by the same rules before we expanded.
Yep. And
I don't disagree with that. I absolutely see your point there, right? Where if not everybody's playing under the same set of rules, then auto qualifiers nationally don't make any sense, right? Because the SEC is doing a different thing than the Big Ten, and the Big 12 is doing a different thing than the ACC, and then the Group of 5s are doing an entirely different thing because of their financial situation. I totally get that, right? So I don't have a problem with setting the national standard. And, if you want to go all Greg Sankey language here, like, I don't have a problem with setting the national standard before you expand. But the reason I wanted expansion was so we didn't have, so at least there was an opportunity for the have-nots to become the haves. And without a auto qualifier to the championship, the haves have no reason whatsoever to ever allow the have-nots.
Remember when you guys told me that this was going to change the recruiting landscape and the teams that
who's you guys?
Everybody not named me. Right? Because
so I got to wear this for everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, if you want to be the elder statesman and stand on your grandstand,
everybody,
and wash with your soapbox, yeah, you got to answer the dinner bell.
All right.
Because what I was told was if this happens, that eventually, who knows if it's 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road, that this will change the landscape of recruiting. And maybe at the then time, the Cincinnatis and some of these other teams that were fringe would be getting the bottom half of the recruits that the top half wasn't getting. So I did this mental exercise that didn't turn out to be so mental. It was actually pretty factual. I talked about recruiting rankings over the last 20 years. And did we, with a clear conscience, think that adding more teams to the party would change the way that the national recruiting landscape goes? Well, you just don't know. How do you know unless you try? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna entertain it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, at least wait till after the television deal is up, okay, before you go from
Fair.
the next number.
It's a fair ask.
Then what we find out is 2.5 years later,
Mhm.
we're in meetings 6 months ago about changing the number of teams. And before they walk their little narrow behinds out of that meeting,
Mhm.
they're already talking about a bigger number.
Yeah.
And everybody, oh man, I can't believe. Yeah. What'd you think was going to happen? Like, what did you think was going to happen? And then let's talk about the infamous, the guy that you don't really like, right? That was trying to warn us about being in an advantageous position to have a seat at the table. So he was trying to position Nebraska in multiple facets, and we kind of snickered and poo-pooed at the AAU. We said, hey, we got to start to win football games. Hey, we want to be here with our athletic programs. You don't think that he was privy to some of those conversations about what this could potentially look like in the upcoming years? And this is what almost to a man people told me. And people will tell you this today. Today, like somebody will tell you on more than one occasion, Nebraska will never get kicked out of blank, blank, and blank. Nebraska won't get kicked out.
Yeah.
After listening to Sankey, what do you feel comfortable putting restraints on or constraints on what cannot happen as college football moves forward? We're mad about the wild, wild west wanting to go back and put NIL back in a bottle. You know what we're not controlling? The conference dominance and who actually gets to sit at the big table at the expense of everybody else, because this is clearly being ran by two conferences.
Yeah, it's who gets to write the rules.
I'm not cool with that. And I was never going to be cool with that at the expense of expansion, because expansion was the guise or the ruse that we were swallowing up like a bunch of sheep for the sake of, I just want to be entertained. I just want as many college football games as I can watch. Yeah, okay. How's that work? How's that going to potentially work out? It's a money grab.
For sure.
And it's going to be at the listen, you think we had have and have nots before. So this whole it's laughable that we couldn't get, I keep wanting to say because we thought that having more people at a party, just getting more invites without a specific sort of dress code, was going to elevate the party. No, you know what happens? Those people that were at those original parties don't want the riffraff there for the sake of them having a good time. Because what always happens in capitalism is, it's cool, I'm going to get mine, and then I'm going to look around and see what everybody else is doing and how this rising tide is supposed to lift all boats. And then the top 10% will further be the top 10%. It's just basic economics. And we allowed ourselves to be snowballed by it because it was sports. It's still business. So those people that you thought were going to have invites to the party and all of a sudden their recruiting profile was going to change. Listen, there's in 2 years, Ravi, in 2 years, 2022 to 2024, you could easily, if you have any sort of objectivity to you, make the case that even with more people invited to the party, college football has never been further from the elites at any point in its college football infrastructure. Ever.
You mean the elites being far from everybody else?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Well, you can't.
I do also.
Oh, you couldn't be wrong.
I do also. It wouldn't be the first time. I do also believe, though, that, and like, you're probably right in terms of what the results actually would be.
Man.
Right? But I also believe the only way to accomplish what I'm talking about, and I get that it's probably not happening. Right?
So
like,
why?
Because if there is a it's like Endgame, right? Where Doctor Strange is like, hey, I just went through however many simulations, and Tony Stark's like, how many did we win? And he goes, 1. Like, I am willing.
That's a great example, by the way.
To take the chance that it goes the exact, because if it doesn't go the way I want it to, it basically ends up in the same spot anyway.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I acknowledge that we are likely going to a place regardless of haves and have-nots and whatever, and like it's the Thanos, that's the inevitable. I get it, right? But if there is a path where there is one opportunity for have-nots to be able to have a path to becoming haves, that's the path I want to take. Even if in all likelihood I know that it will likely still end up meeting Thanos sitting in a field, taking his helmet off.
What did this bring you back to?
Me.
It brought you back to me.
And I understand that. And I can live with that because it is the only possible path to the thing that I value.
What's that?
That have-nots have an opportunity to elevate themselves to becoming haves.
How?
Because the only way
how can 12 through 16 become the haves? Like what? How do you envision that happening?
It's the exact same way Gonzaga did it. I get basketball and football are different, right?
It's not even like you can't.
It's way harder in football. I get that.
Okay, but you're still going to use the analogy anyway.
It's the only one I have because football's never operated in that space.
Guess what? Doesn't make it the right thing to do either. Like I'm gonna recognize your feelings, right? I just said this yesterday. I can be starving, right? Can you acknowledge that I'm starving?
Sure.
Okay. And I steal food. Can you not condone can you honor my feelings and not not honor the fact that I stole because I was hungry? It's still wrong, right? Right?
Sure.
Come on now. There's no real wiggle room there.
I mean,
you can want that. I can acknowledge that you want that to happen, and that can be the crux of your argument. After that, I don't have to recognize the thing because that's not what's going to happen.
I understand that. And I just spent time.
That's not what's going to happen.
I just spent time acknowledging that I realize in all likelihood.
You just had a guy talk about going to 10 teams.
In 99.99.
How do you think the bottom 8 felt about that?
Not great.
This is your league commissioner.
I understand that. I understand in 99.99% of the situations where this plays out, it plays out exactly like you're saying. I get that. I believe, and I could be wrong, I believe there is only one even potential path to the thing I'm talking about, and that is having automatic qualifiers to a 16-team playoff.
Okay.
And I get that if they go to 16, that's not the reason they're doing it.
All right. So let's say you get auto qualifiers, right?
Yeah.
You got an 8-win team in the playoffs.
Sure.
Okay. And let's say you have 3 of those.
Okay.
How does that help them in the grand scheme of things? Let's say 3 years from now.
If they're able to consistently make it as an 8-win team into that bottom half of the playoff,
you think that's gonna change their profile?
I think it can. Will it? I don't. In all likelihood, probably not.
You know what happens? Oh, we're just gonna get beat anyway. And lambs to the slaughter.
Okay.
Everybody. All capitalists need to make money at someone's expense.
I understand that.
All right.
I do. The only example I have, and I know you don't like the basketball example, but it's the only example we have of anything even close to this, is when teams make runs in March, whether it's a one-off upset, whether they get to the Final Four, whether it's Sweet 16, whatever, that does raise their profile, and they often do get better recruits because of it. That's a real thing that happens, and it's the only example I have because it's the only place that it exists really in college sports.
Does it happen in baseball?
I mean, baseball is weird because of the scholarships.
I don't want to go knee jerk, but without giving it deep thought at first blush, I say no. Because you still have James Madisons and Niagaras that actually feel like they have a chance to win.
Yeah, they have a real chance, right?
Yeah. In football, you just won't see double-digit underdogs win back-to-back weeks. It's just not happening.
But in baseball, though, you can have. I mean, didn't Michigan come out of the Big Ten tournament fairly good and then end up in the College World Series? I mean, if you look at it that way, making that run at the end.
I think baseball is still different because it's actually more like the basketball analogy where you can have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 good players.
Yeah, and that can change the dynamic of your team.
And you're not doing it over a long enough haul.
And that's why I said it's infinitely harder in football. I understand that. But it is in my mind, it is the only path to that happening, even if that path is in all likelihood getting nuked before you finish. Like, I get that. Let's get to Jack on the Hurrdat hotline. I want to talk about the Power 5. Jack, what's going on?
Jack, good morning. What's up, buddy?
You know what, fellas, ponder this.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of the 5.
Jack, Jack, can I interrupt you just for a second? I apologize. I love your voice. You should do radio.
Like,
all right, go ahead.
The girls will like it too. Go ahead. All right. Ponder this, fellas.
Okay.
Just ponder this.
Right.
I think we need a group of 5 playoff rather than a group of 5 in the Power 3, Power 4, wherever we end up. And here's why. The group of 5 teams play a bowl game on December the 15th someplace. There's 300 people in the stands and nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a playoff system, then you're going to generate more interest from networks, which I think would generate more income for those schools. Then they can have their own playoff system, and I think it matters more. I think people would care more, and I think people would have more interest in it, and I definitely think it would generate more income for those schools. And the only reason I'm not a big fan of a group of 5 being in the playoffs is they might every once in a while catch lightning in a bottle, win a game like Boise did against Oklahoma or whoever. But to win that second game is next to impossible.
Yeah.
For a group of 5 teams. I don't know what it would take.
Let me ask you something, Jack. Let me ask you something. So who would allocate so should like the money making conference like do a set aside to get that second group of 5 thing started, and then the group of 5 gets to keep their own money from that? Because I would think that group of 5 or that secondary playoff would need some seed money, right? Or no?
Probably. I think there would have to be something. Some part of the networks would have to pick this thing up to generate it financially. Well, basically like what they're doing now. It's like if Fox wants a game, Fox gets a game. If NBC wants a game, NBC gets a game. And I think it would have to be some way, somehow financially tailed up by the networks, just like everything else in college football is now anyway.
Yeah, Jack, I'd entertain. Appreciate the call, Jack. Plausible?
You bet, buddy.
It would probably need a little seed money. And I'm going to ask this question out loud, and it may not even end up being relevant, depending on how cutthroat you think the power structure would be. Would they be cool with a one-off?
In what sense?
Well, it's like here. It would be like if you want to use a basketball analogy, it'd be like we'll trim this to 32, back to a 32-team tournament.
Mm-hmm.
You rest of the 32 that would be in anyway. You're not doing the NIT anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing your second. You're playing the one-off championship.
Yeah, I would say probably not. You're basically turning them into an FCS school, is what you're doing.
So my question is always going to be, in the solutions business, what would be the alternative though if you're going to do that?
The alternative is my plan, where you would get money shares for getting into the playoffs, and the money can help you elevate your program like it does in college basketball. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be talking to Brian Edwards coming up at 8:45. We have moved Steve Sipple to 9:30 by our choice, not his. Then we'll talk to Ben McLaughlin at 9 and Kevin Brockway. So after this segment, it's all we got locked and loaded, getting ready to go. But here's what I want to talk about real quick. I want to continue a conversation about the Group of 5 and Power 5 deal here, right? Because the thing that I didn't articulate very well that Jack kind of got me able to put into words a little bit better is the equalizer that happens in the NCAA men's basketball tournament that I didn't verbalize well. And that's the money shares you get for being in and for winning games in the tournament.
Okay, see, that would have backed me down a little.
Yeah, and that's 100% on me. I didn't articulate that well. The money shares are the equalizer that allow you to start playing at a bigger boy level if you are able to consistently get to the playoff. And then you asked a question that got the wheels turning a little bit here. Because the other thing, you know what counts as a win in the NCAA tournament in basketball?
What's that?
The play-in games.
Yeah, I understand.
Those are winnable games. So if you have play-in games in the college football tournament, those are winnable games for group of 5 teams that would get them even more of a share and can expedite their way on to becoming hats. Again, I recognize this is likely not going to happen.
Okay, so let me so a couple of things are going on at once.
Yeah.
Right. And some of this is from comments that are stimulating in our stream. And because I don't know if I can agree with this, especially after hearing Sankey just kind of casually throw out a smaller number of halves. I mean, the number 10 didn't come out of nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You think I mean, I know he doesn't want to split money with Vanderbilt. I get it.
Okay.
I get it. I do.
So, but these were the things that we were saying 3 or 4 years ago when I was like, well, at some point, I even asked you, I said, are we not worried that Ohio State's going to be like, why are we giving money to Maryland?
No, I understand that.
Okay.
I do.
So I want to go back to something Hot Danger says, because I think we have to, this is a misnomer, in my opinion. And I'm willing, 888-638-4876. I believe this to be a misnomer, but I'm admitting I could be missing something.
Okay.
Hot Danger says, he says, no, it's basic economics. That's what they want to continually expand no matter what. It behooves college football economically to make a model when Nebraska keeps chasing the carrot, and Cincinnati and USF, etc.
Okay.
I do not fundamentally believe that to be true unless you start with it. So let's say somebody gives me Adam gives me some seed money, right? He's like, hey, I support you. I want to do this. You take this and go do this. The other radio guys, they're going to be doing this. You're on your own for now. They don't have this advantage. They're sharing. So it's a little bit of a slower start for them. You get all this to yourself to go build your thing. Now, I'm just telling you, whatever. But now you're on your own. You can't come back into this. You get the advantageous of the seed money, but you can grow it as you want. Listen, no, you're not paying for overhead. Like it's just in essence a gift. That's the only way I could see Hot Danger being right. Is that if I feel funny calling him Hot Danger, but Hot Danger's fine. Is if the revenue sharing pool says, okay, fine, we're going to get you started. But we're not going to allow you to keep divvying up the pie even smaller if you're not making, if you're not turning enough of a profit. We'll get you started.
Yeah.
But we're not going to keep splitting up the pie, because what he's operating under is the assumption that the television deals will exponentially increase the same.
And we don't know that.
We don't know that.
We have no idea.
So I don't know what kind of business model would invite that. Right?
I do.
So, do tell.
That's what we talked about last week. Private equity.
No, see, I thought about that a lot. Almost it dominated the weekend, unfortunately. Because I like to I'm like, all right, let me think about this. How many are you willing to run the risk of not meeting not getting the money back? I want you to do something for me. This is kind of off topic. Go read in what happened to the Red Lobsters.
No, I know.
Right. The buying of the property.
I'm not advocating for private equity. I'm saying that's the injection of money that certain teams
I just don't think
grab at.
Ravi, it's not sustainable.
No, it's not. It's 100% not.
It's a quick fix.
100%. I am not advocating for private equity. When you're talking about where does the money come from, that's the place that we've already seen Drew Weatherford and his people go out there and try and advocate. Because if you're Cincinnati, or your UCF.
So you're saying in essence, you're basically just saying, well, Damon, you just walk me through seed money, start money.
Yeah,
that's where private equities come in, and then they can go do.
But it's not a gift. Like you talked about it as a gift.
Yeah,
there are consequences then if you don't provide in the way that they think you need to in return on investment or whatever, right? Like there is going to be ramifications if people take private equity money. I am not advocating for that model to enter into college sports or sports in general. It's a disaster. Private equity ruins most of the things that it touches in terms of the takeovers, and the Red Lobster is a great example, but it's not an isolated one at all. Like that's what private equity does. They're essentially
it's unbelievable.
A legal money mob. Go watch Goodfellas. You know what they do to the restaurant? That's private equity.
Yeah.
Except for it's legal and they don't actually burn it to the ground. They just financially burn it to the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Red Lobsters were paying for the properties that the buildings were on because the private equities own the land.
Yeah.
Like,
and they made it. They weren't even. They were.
So they got their margin, and then they leased it back to
the people that had previously owned it.
Yeah.
And they were leasing it at such a astronomical rate that they couldn't possibly be profitable, right? And now, after making all the money off the lease payments, they're going to sell the land back at a profit because land appreciates.
Yep.
So I'm not advocating for private equity, but when you ask where the money's going to come from, it's private equity, and it's going to ruin certain athletic departments because as soon as private equity doesn't get their money back, they're going to start stripping it off for parts. I don't know exactly how the mechanics of that are going to work within athletic departments because it's not quite the same as a business, but I do know private equity will find a way. If they're already sniffing around, they've thought of this.
Yeah, and you also had a couple of ADs that were anonymously on record that says, yeah, we've thought about this.
Yeah.
We've talked about this for a while. We'll see.
And the ones that would think about it are the ones that are desperate, the ones that are chasing the carrot, like Hot Danger was saying, right? The teams that want to have a seat at the table, but don't want to go through the process I'm talking about to get there without owing your life to someone else, without owing everything you have to someone else.
So
you're right. It is the quick fix, and it's a bad fix. But if you're wondering where the seed money is going to come from,
unless you found somebody or an entity or the powers that be were just that altruistic, where they're like, hey, we really want the greater good here. Let this get you started for the sake of the integrity of the sport.
So
I just don't know.
The integrity of the sport is crucial here, right?
Yeah, but I just don't know if I'm naive enough to think.
I don't think it happens unless we have this weird, come from behind story where the NCAA somehow ends up with some amount of either leverage or money or whatever to help keep these other schools afloat until they can get their legs on it. I'm not saying it'll happen.
I just don't know. I'm trying to, again, I'm not an economist, but I was a big Greenspan fan. Don't shoot me. I don't know. Is the revenue model sustainable enough with all these capitalist components, and at the back end you run it with some socialism ideologies? Because that's really what you're saying.
Sure, but here's the
you all on the back end can share this. You're capped,
yes,
but you're not going to go broke. While we'll continue to do this, we've seen that doesn't really work in government.
But here's where you'd have to make the connection, right? You'd have to show the Ohio States and Alabamas and Georgia
why it's profitable for them to keep beating up on Indiana's,
why it's profitable for them to keep sharing money with Indiana. And the reason there is if you don't have enough teams at the table, people will question the legitimacy of your champion.
You have to have somebody to play.
You have to have a frame of reference. That's why the Super League in Europe got killed.
Yeah,
there was too few teams.
I'm vibing.
That's
because
the
you
value.
Have to be able to. Well, it would have been nice if we would have agreed on the number of scheduled games, because then we could see
for sure
who could make the money by being the non-cons.
For sure, there's lots of stuff like that never got worked out that should have been. We are back, wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we are joined now by the one and only Brian Edward. B, how are you this morning?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
B, how are things? We're just talking about economy, man. We're like a bunch of Warren Greenspans over here. How's this revenue sharing in college football going to work? And why is Sankey coming across as pretty greedy? That's all.
I just don't like Sankey. Well, I'm not sure because I've kind of been and it's going on like 7 or 8 minutes from my house. I have not been on top of the Destin spring meetings, but what I really have not liked from Sankey recently is wanting to mess with the NCAA basketball tournament. I would imagine y'all probably start talking football stuff.
I can't. And so the funny thing about you saying that is we keep trying to find basketball examples to make this ideology work, and he could end up tinkering with that too, and that may not be our frame of reference. Like,
and he has talked about it.
Oh, I know.
That may be the thing that stops him, though, is you mess with something that people genuinely and truly love and understand how it works. Like, that may be the thing where people are like, no, we're not doing that.
Well, we managed to have the wool pulled over our eyes up to this point. The more the merrier. Yeah. Okay, guys.
Yeah. I spent my free time on UFC Media Day yesterday, so I gotta get caught up on what all's been talked about over in Destin.
Hey, how likable for you or unlikable? I'm guessing it's the latter. And I did like what he had to say about the new gloves for the UFC, but how unlikable is Sean Strickland?
Oh, brutal. And he went after Dana in the UFC brass yesterday, which I'm sure will not fly over well. He better. I mean, I'm not implying he'll get cut, but he better hope he gets away with all that when he's winning. If he loses this one and loses another, they might cut the cord on him.
I felt like the whole, military services and armed forces, that was one thing.
Right.
This is just on a whole nother level of incredible lack of self-awareness.
Yeah. He
the guy that uttered the phrase that being a Navy SEAL, like, no big deal, right? Like,
right. Come on, man, pay some respect.
Were you surprised to see he's such a huge fave over Paulo?
A little bit. Now, I just Costa, you just never. Certainly, you don't want to bet on him until you see what he does on the scales on Friday. But yes, I was, and if Costa looks good at weigh-ins Friday, I may play him because Strickland shouldn't be almost a 3-1 favorite.
Doesn't seem right.
No, not at all. But I just, it's hard to trust Costa. Is he in shape? But I mean, we should have a good idea. He was in shape his last fight. He made weight last fight. I was, maybe showing a little more discipline. So yeah, maybe I will consider him, but not until I see what he looks like on Friday.
And I think you and I are huge Poirier fans. I was shocked to see Makhachev a 6-1 fave. I'm scared because I like Poirier, right? I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anything bad happen to him.
Right. Yeah. I love Dustin, and I hope in fact, I've probably said this before on a few bets, especially UFC, but I don't think I've ever wanted to lose a bet as bad as I want to lose this one. But I can't turn down Makhachev by submission at even money. I just can't turn that down. Kevin Holland said it yesterday. Like, he thinks that if Makhachev moves up to 170, he'll be champ easily. And I don't know that I disagree with that. I don't think anybody can beat Makhachev at 155. I'm not saying he's as great as Khabib was, but he's not much below that, and it's a matchup nightmare. Now, obviously, can Dustin catch him standing up? Of course he can, and I hope he does. But I've got to play Dustin Islam under 1.5 plus 130, and Islam by submission even money, because that's Dustin's bugaboo, getting submitted. And even if Dustin wins, I think it would be under 1.5. And I think that Islam probably gets a submission early second round, if not late first. I hope not. But I like those two bets from my betting brain perspective. But obviously, I'm rooting for Dustin, no doubt about it.
It's interesting because Poyet's had so many hard fights.
Yeah, he has.
Just I like him because he just, for all intents and purposes, seems like such a good guy.
No doubt about it. He's right there. Him and Gaethje and the Black Beast and Matt Brown, they're my favorites of all time.
So if you're going with Islam in that fight, obviously you don't want to lay the -600. You do like those even money on the submission. You like the plus money on the under. Is there any, I know you didn't send this to us, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot there. Is there any way in which you would put any money on Poirier as maybe kind of a long shot?
I mean, I'm not against it, but it would be very small change, like in other words, I would, let's say, I'll just make up some amounts. If I had 100 on Islam to win by submission, even money, I might at the last second put, 25, 30 on Dustin, because he's like plus 450 or so. But I think Islam wins. Look, my heart will be content. I don't need any money on Dustin. If he wins, I will celebrate and be happy and thrilled to lose that money.
All right, so with such heavy faves between Strickland and Makhachev and Holland's getting a big number, Almeida's getting a big number. How are you? Well, I guess Randy Brown even at -175 is juicy. How are you packaging this for the best bang for your buck?
Yeah, so I like those three favorites: Randy Brown, Kevin Holland, and Jailton Almeida. So yesterday morning when I was on another show and I plugged it in the parlay calculator, Almeida was -265, Holland -265, Brown -175. Now Almeida has gone up at a lot of books. Some books even north of -300, and Holland's gone up a little bit more into that -290, -300 range. Brown is mostly -175 to -185, but those prices I said on a 3-leg parlay got back +198 yesterday. I'm guessing, and again, these odds are varying from book to book. I'm guessing that parlay only gets back about anywhere from +160 to 175 at this point, but I still like it. Yeah, I like all three of those guys. And then I like the Almeida fight to go under 1.5 rounds at a -120 price at FanDuel. A little more expensive at some other places, maybe -130, -135. I would probably like that all the way up to about -145, -150. I wouldn't want to go any further than -150. And the reason why is because Almeida's had 23 career fights, and 20 of those 23 have gone under 1.5 rounds.
Do you have a good feel on anything in the NBA with the T-Pups and the Mavs?
I mean, I would not say I'm super confident by any means, but yeah, I got two plays. I've been really up and down in the NBA in these playoffs. So I'm going to go with the over 209.5. So now these teams, well, the over's 3-1 in this series, and those combined scores have been 213, 217, 223. Game 4 the other night went under, only getting to 205. But in 6 of the 8 head-to-head meetings this year, they've had at least 213. The 4 regular season meetings had 220, 228, 223, and 208. So 208 was the one that would have gone under tonight's number. But 6 of their 8 head-to-head meetings, like I said, have gotten to 213, and we're at 209.5 tonight. And then on the Mavs, now just because we don't want to have to watch The Last Dance again on ESPN like they had last night because we have no Easter.
I was watching Dolores Jordan, man. She looked sharp.
Yeah, she did. Actually, I enjoyed. I don't know that I had watched. I maybe had watched it twice, but I did watch a lot of it last night.
That's funny. We both. I don't have a life, B, so I'm not going to speak for you. But that's why I watched it, just because it was on television. I'm a lousy sleeper.
Right. So
we both watched that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so my only point was that I hope Minnesota wins outright so we get another game in 2 days. But I like Dallas +5. They've had 6 games as an underdog so far in the playoffs, 5-1, both straight up and against the spread. They've been on the road 8 times in the playoffs, 6-2, both straight up and against the spread. And when Kyrie's been in uniform, he's only been in uniform in 5 of the 8 head-to-head meetings against Minnesota this year. But when he is, they're 4-1 straight up and against the spread. I'll go Mavs +4.5 or 5.
I asked this to Ravi the other day because sometimes he can be a little more easygoing than not. You think you could play with Luka barking at you about everything you're doing wrong all the time, B?
I don't like teammates like that. No.
He apparently must be a great guy off the court because on he seems miserable.
Right? Yeah. I mean, if they have a point, I'll listen, but I just don't like teammates barking all the time, man.
Seems like a tough hang, B. We appreciate it as always.
Tough hang. Tough hang. I love it.
Thanks, B.
See you guys.
That's Brian Edwards. You can find him at majorwager.com, BrianEdwardsSports.com, and Vegas Insider. Coming up next, Ben McLaughlin, Husker Sports Network. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and we're brought to you by Durkin Designs. It's your one-stop shop for the backyard of your dreams. They can do paver patios, retaining walls, any sort of water or fire features, lighting, cleanups, maintenance. I know there's been a lot of storms. Might have to give them a call. I need a little cleanup and maintenance over there as well. You can give them a call, 402-779-4444. That's 402-779-4444 for Durkin Designs.
I just want him to give me an idea for that south fence.
Yeah, do something kind of cool over there.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be fancy. I just don't want the dogs over there anymore.
Yeah, they're picking fights. They can't.
Yeah, they're not beating either one of those.
They can't win those.
No.
Joining us now is the man, the myth, the legend, Ben McLaughlin from Husker Sports Network. Benny Mac, what's going on?
Oh, not much. Just about physically assaulted some car seats in my car, getting the rental car loaded up for Stillwater. But other than that, things are good.
Oh, so you're taking the crew?
The whole crew's coming.
That's a terrible.
That is unbelievable.
That's a terrible idea.
Dude, his kids are combined 5.
Saying, yeah, Daddy, I don't want you to leave. And I was like, all right, well, do you want to come with? Yeah. Okay. Looks like we're doing this. So.
Oh, that's kind of cool though. Like I could. That's cool. We took Zoe to Dallas, and she was probably she wasn't quite 2 yet. She was fine.
Yeah, we're to the age where iPads can hold their attention. So it's the little one I'm worried about. But I'm sure by hour 4 I'll have my entire life reconsidered by that point.
I mean, Ben, kids don't make good decisions. You shouldn't leave that in their hands.
Well, I typically don't make the best decisions either. I suppose maybe she gets that from me.
So I kind of have a soft spot though for dads that can work with that take their kids to work. Though I kind of like you more than I did about 2 minutes ago. That's pretty cool, man. That's going to be.
I love that.
It's not 6.5 hours though. I'm just telling you, that's going to be closer to 8 with what you're trying to pull off.
Bare minimum. Bare minimum.
You thought calling 6 games in 5 days was a grind show. You should see our car make its way south to Stillwater.
Dude, that had to have been incredible, though. Like, you spent so much time at that ballpark. At what point were you like, you know what? I think they could probably pull this off.
I think for me, if I'm being completely honest, it was probably after the first Indiana game. You could tell how badly Indiana wanted to win that first game. When you roll your Friday night ace out there at 9 a.m. on 3 days rest, you could have kind of sensed that they put their eggs in the basket of that first game. And I understand it from Coach Mercer's standpoint. You don't want to send a message to your team that you're holding something back in case something happens for the night game. But they spent a lot of energy in that first game, and Will Walsh and Josh Caron were able to just withstand all that energy by themselves. So I think when that game ended, and we had a chance to kind of get off our feet a little bit, and you knew you were throwing Drew Christo, who's been hot. They really weren't swinging it that well, which is what they do. And then everything that was going on in the other bracket, right? I mean, facing Penn State on paper, you love that matchup. So I think at that point in time, I thought if Nebraska could win that second Indiana game, they'd have a really good chance to win the whole thing.
Did you, for whatever the reason, did they ever explain why they pulled Devin Taylor?
He was dealing with some kind of shoulder issue. We weren't really told to what degree it was, because that
seemed crazy in crunch time, right? It's like
100%, because
that guy's a hammer.
Order made the last out.
Yep,
his spot in the order made the last out in game one, and then we knew something was up when he was lifted, and then when we got the lineup card in game two and he was DHing and not in left field, that's when we kind of put 2 and 2 together, because he's a heck of a player, one of the better Big Ten players I've seen. And he just didn't look right all weekend. Not even just in our games, but the whole tournament. And he's still homered.
And I get it, because you do like this is total. People think I'm a numbers junkie. Like, you helped me out during broadcasts. Did you realize he's a 1090 OPS?
It's insane. Like, just the Indiana slugging numbers will just blow you away. Like, all of their OPSs are ridiculous. You know, even like a Jason Oliver, who entered the tournament as their 9-hole hitter, was slugging at like a 650 plus.
And he's another 900 OPS.
It's insane. It's insane what they're doing. And it's not just the homers, but it's the doubles. I mean, they hit so many doubles that those numbers are just absolutely astronomically high.
Ben, you mentioned Drew Christo, but I want to talk about the bullpen in general. Obviously, that had been a spot that was not always giving the answers Nebraska wanted throughout the season, but over that course of 6 games in 5 days, where it became a crucial component, like, what did you see different from them over that stretch than we'd seen for most of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just going to maybe throw out that Ohio State beatdown on Tuesday, because I don't think there was really anything good about that game. I mean, Nebraska just got taken behind the woodshed in that one. But I think what the bullpen was able to do was feed off the energy of the starters. I mean, Nebraska had just absolutely sensational starts from game 2 to game 6 in that tournament. And when you're coming in for a guy who just gave Nebraska 7 innings, or, you know, in Will Walsh's case, didn't need the bullpen, went all 9. Jackson Brockett went 8. You know, there wasn't that many innings to be had for the bullpen, but when they came in, they just fed off the energy of the guy that pitched before them. And when you have kind of that momentum rolling in the right way, that's when things start to get scary for the other team. And I can't imagine it was a settling feeling for Penn State when Brockett goes 8, and then you see Brett Sears run in from the right field bullpen with your season on the line.
How about Nebraska? So at what point do you think we'll acknowledge or give credit to the fact that, you know, Nebraska lost 2 good bats in the lineup, didn't finish the season in the lineup as they started, although one did get hot late as he was reinserted. You lost a guy out of your rotation in Christo. You didn't win midweek games worth a hill of beans. At what point is this just a team that it doesn't matter what happens? We should probably just stay in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit to what you see, you know, and I've gotten this question a million times, the celebration with the palms up, with the arms in the air. It's a little bit like the Arkansas regional team in 21 with the don't care motto, framed by Jackson Hallmark. It's a little bit like that, to where it's like
some of the greatest hair in baseball, by the way, Jackson Hallmark.
Right. We know all this external stuff can affect us if we let it. You know, we can letting 7 runs up in the 9th inning to Indiana affect us. We can let losing to South Dakota State affect us. We can let all these external stuff affect us. But ultimately what it comes down to is us, you know, the guys putting on the jersey and the guys playing for one another. And I think, you know, when you see these guys interact with each other, they love each other and they love playing for each other. And that sounds so cliche, but you don't have that every year. And it's really evident the teams that don't have that, because oftentimes they're the ones, you know, throwing helmets and throwing bats and, making excuses and, letting all the other stuff affect them, where this team is just kind of rolling with the punches. And yeah, we don't know what's going to happen today either, but we're going to go fight and give it hell for 9 innings and see what happens after that. So I think a lot of that mantra kind of plays into it, to what you say, DB, about losing all the production from Max and Bryce and losing, basically your entire rotation from last year, not getting what you thought from Drew Christo, having Gabe Swanson not even be in your starting lineup for 90% of the
that's
year.
incredible, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you tell me before the year Dylan Carey's hitting under 260, Drew Christo's not in the rotation, and Gabe Swanson's hitting 220 going into the postseason, I say there is no postseason. I mean, this season is so far gone. If those three things happen, and look where they're at, they've just gotten a lot of production elsewhere.
I mean, Gabe Swanson had 85 at bats. Officials. Like, what are we talking about here? It's like at some point that's just a good baseball team, right?
Yeah, and then you like watch him take batting practice, and you're like, why? Why is this happening? Why does this guy have 18 home runs last year and is the second team all league pick, and he can't find his way in the lineup? It was so puzzling that he struggled so bad early in the year. I mean, he had so many bad at bats, and there's a difference between not having a high average and just not having competitive at bats. And that was Gabe. I mean, he just looked lost. He was chasing pitches. He was taking pitches over the middle. He was weak infield pop-ups. I mean, and with Nebraska's depth in the outfield, he had a longer leash than some, but it just wasn't what it needed to be. And so he lost his job. And that's what makes the run that he went in Omaha so incredible, is because, Damon, you've been around a lot of athletes that have lost their job and not ever gotten it back and played the woe is me card and nowadays transfer. That wasn't Gabe Swanson. Instead, he put his head down and he worked, and he was rewarded for it.
We're talking with Ben McLaughlin. He's the Nebraska play-by-play voice for Husker Radio Network. Ben, you mentioned that 2021 team a couple minutes ago, and we've had some discussions this week about whether the 2021 team was better, whether this team was better. I guess my question to you is, like, what do you think are the major differences between that 2021 team that nearly knocked off Arkansas in their regional and this year's team that might allow them to move past the regional round?
It's a really good question. And it's a question I haven't been asked, but I've thought about. And I think the obvious difference, and ironically enough, made his major league debut last night, is Spencer Schwellenbach. Like, this team doesn't have that. They don't have the 3-hole hitting shortstop that throws 98 and it with a hammer breaking ball that can get any lineup in the country out. Like that, they don't have that. But outside of like a Schwelly and a Povich, but I mean, I would even throw Sears and Povich in that same
at least they're comparable, right? Like,
yes, 100%. They're within arm's reach of each other, and that's not far-fetched to say. Really, the Schwellenbach piece is the only thing missing. Like, that team didn't hit a bunch of home runs like the team last year. They didn't set a program record with home runs, but how many times did you see Mojo Hagee bounce one through the 4-hole on a hit and run, or see Joe Acker go first to third on a single to left center field, or, whatever the case may have been? They were just kind of a gritty, grinded out team, and they did just enough to annoy you, and they did just enough to win baseball games. And then, to back that up with what they had in the back end with Schwellenbach, I would say this team is significantly deeper in terms of a pitching staff, and that came to fruition this last week. But I think that's part of the reason why people are so bullish about the matchups in Stillwater, is because they do see a lot of comparisons from the 21 team to this year's team.
So is the trick for and when I'm not texting you who we think is going to be in the rotation or bothering you about something dumb when you're trying to work, is the key to figuring out the depth of this rotation to figure out? And I kind of tried to ask this the other day, and it didn't come out right. But with you, I'm a little more relaxed. If there's 10 guys that can throw, is the key to figure out which 6 or 7 are going to be on? Because sometimes you almost never know. Is the key picking the right 6 or 7 out of those 10?
Yeah, and there's more of a scientific way to figure that out, Damon. But I'm not a good darts player.
What is it? Is it just to see who else is going to be on the Caleb Clark bandwagon? All the pitching that went on, and we didn't even talk. We didn't even really. He didn't really factor into their depth this week, which is crazy considering how he finished the season.
Yeah, and Evan Borst didn't even pitch. That's one of your most high leverage guys that you've got in your bullpen. He didn't pitch in any of the games all tournament. But to answer your question, I think it's like almost throwing darts at a dartboard, because you compare a guy like Walsh and Brockett, right? Both left-handers, different body types, but very similar stuff. Brockett's got a better breaking ball than Walsh. Walsh has a better changeup. But you're talking about soft tossing lefties who have to mix and locate.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you choose between those two?
Yeah.
I mean, so a lot of it comes down to what Coach Childress can break down the nuances between, all right, how does this team stack with right and left? What are their splits? What, can we pitch backwards to this team? Are they good breaking ball hitters? Do they chase? Are they good in the zone? All these other variables that come into play that might give a slight edge to one guy over the other. But it's a tough call, right? I mean, now when you throw Christo into the mix, that's a significantly different look than what you have from those two lefties. This is a hard throwing righty with a good slider, so that's a little easier to distinguish between.
How about his last 8-9 innings pitched versus the 20 previous?
Well, that's just it, Damon. Is that's added a wrinkle to what Nebraska wants to do, because it becomes such a weapon in the bullpen. You don't want to just plug him in as a starter. You've got a guy that could take the ball in the sixth and go finish it if he's on.
Ben, do you think that because of the variety of arms and kind of playing that game of darts that you were talking about, do you think that is going to lead to a little bit shorter leashes in the regional when it comes to either leaving a guy in or letting him work through some stuff?
100%. I mean, it's all bets off at this point. At this point in the season, and guys understand that. Guys know that, with this tournament in particular, your role could look completely different what it was all year. And we've kind of already started to see that a little bit with Christo throwing the back end and then coming back and starting. We saw it with Sears, who, came into close. You're going to start seeing that with seasons on the line. You're going to see coaches get creative. Mention the 21 team. Spencer Schwellebach comes in and throws 70 pitches in relief. You're going to start seeing things that you haven't seen before, and that includes long leashes, that includes short leashes. Like, you're not going to be able to afford Will Walsh the time to figure it out. Like, you think about how that outing went. It was a very rocky second inning. If that's regional, I don't know that they go with him past the second inning. So it's all the decisions are ratcheted up. The guys are going to have to be on their toes. They're going to have the ability to bounce back on short rest. Everything's on the table at this point in the season.
So I know, and we talked about this with Aaron Fitt on Tuesday, and it was just cool because I'm a nerd, watch a ton of college baseball, and we were explaining about Florida. I mean, I get it, right? They probably shouldn't be a 3 seed, but they are capable. They do play the long ball, don't hit for poop, strike out a ton, but there was a chance the Cags wouldn't throw. So yesterday it comes out, Liam Peterson's going to throw, and people kind of breathe a sigh of relief, but he was a freshman. He did make the All-SEC freshman team, but he is right-handed. So if I'm looking for another blessing, it's like, okay, Nebraska splits against lefties aren't great. They get a right-hander with good stuff. Do you think his style fits with how Nebraska wants to play in terms of low scoring, kind of grimy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends what Liam you see, because we've seen him be Jekyll and Hyde this year for Florida. He's really, I think, Florida's had a hard time nailing down an ace. Like, I've been asked that a few times, like, who's their ace? And it's really hard to say because, Caglione certainly has the best stuff, but he's been pitching a lot on Sundays because of his two-way situation. And Capolla's been getting a lot of the starts on Fridays, big, tall left-hander, but he's been up and down. And, I think they've probably made the right move to go with the right-hander just based off their consistency. But, like what you said, Damon, Florida's an interesting team, not just for Nebraska to match up with this weekend, but if they were to play Oklahoma State or Niagara, I'll be really intrigued to see how those matchups go, because we're playing in a little bandbox launch.
I hate it. It's a shame. It's a shame.
So, I've told people if Nebraska plays Florida in a 3-game series at the Chuck in Omaha, I think Nebraska wins more than half the time in a series against Florida.
Yep.
Playing at this ballpark in Stillwater, I think is going to add a different wrinkle. Now it makes me feel a lot better knowing Brett Sears is on our side and going to throw. But I think what you say, Damon, they're very feast and famine, a lot like Indiana, except they don't hit quite as many doubles. But if you're not fielding the ball, if you're putting guys on base, they can make a 1-1 game to a 4-1 game before you can sit down.
Are you kind of with me? I was talking with Fit on Tuesday. I liked Florida's matchup primarily because it fits my mind where Nebraska could play a 5-3-4-2 kind of game where they don't have to probably outslug Florida. But you're right. That was if the ballpark could hold how Florida likes to hit. But, I mean, it could be kind of gritty, right? Like, I could see Florida playing a game like that.
Yeah, you definitely could. And then you think about Florida's bullpen situation. It's not inconceivable to me that, Liam gives them 4 or 5 innings and then Neely finishes. I mean, that's how it could look for them. Their closer has thrown over 70 pitches so far in an outing. And just, recently, keep in mind, this is a Florida team that had to beat Georgia 2 out of 3 on the road in Athens to be eligible for the postseason. After losing Friday.
One of only 4 conference series they won.
Crazy. Just crazy what they did.
And they won the first 2 before the end of March.
And you remember, who those 2 were?
Yeah, A&M and LSU.
Unbelievable, right? And then they go get bounced in the first game in Hoover. Damon, I'm going to give you 6.5 hours, or we'll call it 8, for me to get to Stillwater to try and figure out the Gators, and you let me know what you come up with.
Yeah, it's incredible. Not only did I not think they should be a 3, you could easily make the case they shouldn't be in the field, and I still think they're capable of winning that regional. I'm not kidding you.
We'll look at the Vegas odds. I mean, they have significantly better odds according to the odds makers than Nebraska. Figure that one out. I mean, I think there's a lot of people around this that are with you, and a lot of it has to do with the talent on their roster. They brought in a few transfers. Obviously, Caglianone's the bell cow here, but people around the SEC or down in Gainesville are holding on to the fact that, look at our record, but we're the number 1 strength of schedule team in the country, and we were in the national championship last year. So they kind of got that arrogance, that SEC swag to them, and that's certainly counting for at least what they like to believe, and that belief can be dangerous when it's rolling. So we'll just kind of have to see how it goes.
We'll get you out of here on this, and you got to obviously get past Florida. And we talked to Coach McCoy from Niagara yesterday, and they're not going back down either. But the level of surprise that you think people that don't follow college baseball will have at the end of this tournament, that Oklahoma State actually has some pitching depth and not just offensive-minded like Okie State of old.
I know, it's so frustrating looking at their stats. I'm like, why and how? These aren't these guys. What are we doing here?
They actually can pitch it.
Yes, and more than one guy, like up and down. And it's just like, oh, this guy has 111 strikeouts to 27 walks. That's good. Oh, this guy has 108 strikeouts to 17 walks. That's pretty good too. I don't want to see either of these guys. But and that's part of the reason why they were able to make that run through. Arlington and like Nebraska are hot right now, and those fans are psychotic. So it's going to make for an interesting environment. And I know Husker fans are still having a little bit of PTSD from the Brick Town for what happened against Colby Gomez back in 2019.
Hey, it's a brutal fan base, so make sure the kids have earmuffs.
Well, something they haven't heard their dad say already. So.
That's a great point, because I believe you, because I've been around you.
That's particularly when radio equipment wants to start fighting back.
Hey, you and Shane have that in common. That's Ben McLaughlin. He is the Nebraska baseball play-by-play voice. Ben, we appreciate the time. Enjoy that road trip, bud. I don't know what you were thinking.
Yeah, well, you'll probably both be hearing from me here in about 12 hours.
I'll check on you, buddy.
Enjoyable that our chat at 9 a.m. was. That was such a nice part of the day.
You'll still be in Wichita at that point. We'll talk to you
later. Thanks, B-Mac.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Steve Sipple coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and don't forget about our friends at KFOR in Lincoln. Speaking of Lincoln, talking to the one and only Stephen Montgomery Sipple from Husker Online. Sip, what's going on, bud?
Montgomery's strong and good. I like it. How are you guys doing this morning?
Hey, Sip, how did you not realize you were double booked, buddy? Are you that popular? Because I would believe it.
No. Here's the deal. The week. Okay, I can explain this. The week is strange because of the holiday.
Oh, gotcha.
I've been day off all my life, but really all this week has been a kind of a jumbled mess in my mind, and it just got messed up. Today's Thursday, not Wednesday, and that was the issue. Last night when Shane booked me, I was thinking he's booking me for Wednesday, and then it occurred to me this morning, no, he booked this is Thursday, and I'm in trouble. So that's what happened.
So, Sip, I got the best M name for you. Let's go with Magnus, because Magnus, I think in Latin means great. So let's go with Stephen Magnus Sipple. Are you okay with
Magnus for Magnuson?
Yeah, I like Magnus.
Okay.
It's unique. I never heard it. That passes. Montgomery's really good, though. I do like Montgomery.
Strong name. I saw your partner last night, and I do think he's the GOAT. Jake was out walking the little one with his wife yesterday in downtown Lincoln, or at the Haymarket, so I thought that was cool to see Flaky Jake, man. Are you taking good care of him?
Jake Sorensen.
Yes.
He takes good care of me. He takes care of the elder.
I was tempted to see if you were in that stroller, but it wasn't.
No, I'm not that old. I know that's what happens. And I'm getting to be that.
No, those are called wheelchairs, Sip, not strollers.
Well, that's the concept, though.
Similar idea.
Hey, Sip, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you had a piece the other day that I really like because I'm experiencing this full time with Caleb down there. You brought the light back to Coach Rule and academics. And some people may read that you had online with On3 and kind of roll their eyes. But going through this recruiting process and being with some other recruits on their recruiting process and sitting with Dennis, he said something that I think is pretty incredible for how long Dennis has been there. And he said, Damon, no slight to any other coaches, like they all had their strengths and weaknesses. He said, but there's two things about Coach Rule that I absolutely love. He said, number one, he came to me and he said, Dennis, how can I make your job easier? Like, what do I need to do on my part so you can function at a high level at yours? And Dennis said, I just get them in the chair. Just get them to me. Make sure they're here. I got the rest. So check one. He said the other thing is he's given it some teeth. Like he said, he puts his money where his mouth is. So they've had very few problems. After your article, that probably doesn't surprise you, does it?
No, not at all. Rule is really a fascinating figure to me. It's almost like he's holding on to the college football that we love. I mean, that we all love. It's like he's not letting it get away from it, And I don't know if that's the way he thinks. It's kind of the way I look at it, though. Seems like every decision he makes a lot of sense to me in the context of what I think the world should look like, and what I think college football world should look like. I do still think academics are really important. It's not, I don't want it to be just a big money grab. I mean, I was on the sidelines at the Polynesian Bowl and I heard players talking, like saying things like, did you get your bag? I mean, those are real conversations with some players. It doesn't have to be all that way though. There's a degree in education is still extremely important. So, yeah, I mean, it's nice. So what that was all about was on the recruiting visits, Nebraska is emphasizing academic part, the making sure kids get to the colleges that make the most sense to them on campus, and having that level of involvement. I don't know. I think, and you guys have been following the program for a long time. I do think each of the head coaches have done a good job. Some better than others.
Yeah,
it's always a matter of degrees. I know I would say that like Pelini, I know Bo was really mindful of that. Like I would never want to slight these guys.
I think it's cool to watch play out, right? A couple of times, and I try not to bother him, but I'm like, hey, what's going on? When I'll ask a question or something, he's like, hey, I'm in academics. I'll text you later, or hey, I got to get back. I got academics at 9. Like that's happened a couple of times, and I'm thinking, okay, number one, it's summer, so I can appreciate that, but the sentiment is it's hard to live a double life. So if you're good in one capacity, you stand a better chance to be good in the other in this day and age. Now, you and I both know there are lots of guys that just played school and still could be good athletes. But he said with the caliber of whole-rounded people that they're trying to recruit, they want them to actually be well-rounded.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, and that's what we're talking about. It's not just about football, and it's not just about money. It's about being a well-rounded individual, and it's not all about academics either. So it all makes perfect sense to me. And I think if you're a Nebraska fan, it's just another example of why you feel good about the leadership right now.
Could definitely help him with Sanders Jr. I saw that firsthand.
I'm sorry?
I said it could definitely help him with Sanders Jr. I saw that firsthand.
Oh, isn't that an interesting conversation? Because there's a temptation, I think, and it's real. There's a cynicism out there that like, oh yeah, you're not going to get that kid. You're not going to get David Sanders. He's the top offensive tackle in the country. There's no look at the line of places he's looking at right now. No, it's real. I mean, and that's the kind of guy who might be able.
100%.
It's the kind of guy you might be able to steal. I'll say steal, and it's a part because of the overall presentation. But Dylan helps too. I mean, Dylan is part of the overall presentation. But the overall presentation is legit strong right now. It's got, it's been pretty strong, but it's gotten stronger. The facility the training facility makes it stronger than it was, a year ago.
And Sip, the cool thing is they weren't even in town. They were at TCU at a graduation, and he still loved it. You know what I mean? Like it's real.
Yep.
Sip,
real.
Can I make the argument, we've always been looking for like, okay, what's Nebraska's edge? Where can they get, because before it was, the training table or strength and conditioning or whatever. And we thought, oh, maybe it'll be NIL, maybe it'll be facilities, whatever. This is going to sound like the cheesiest thing possible, but is like that whole holistic experience thing. Like, can that be the edge, whether it's just academics or the relationships or whatever, when everybody else is just focusing on the money? Can the edge just be like, hey, we actually care about you?
Yeah, it can. That's interesting. I've never thought of it.
That's it. That is interesting.
I have my moments.
It is.
Well, it just sounds so it sounds almost too simple.
Sounds cheesy when you're like, oh, what's your secret ingredient? And they're like, it's love. And it's like, but like maybe it is.
Yeah, or wholesomeness. And I think that part of the package too is just the safety element. I think that I hear that from parents sometimes that Lincoln, they feel a parent or a guardian feels good about sending their child to Lincoln to this area because there is a safety element that doesn't exist everywhere. And Rule does. I mean, he does. There is a holistic element to the whole conversation, and that might be the edge. Like I said, I hate that kind of frame it up like I did initially, but I do feel that. Like it's like Rule holds on to the elements that a lot of the traditional college football fans would like.
But without seeming out of touch for the modern stuff either. That's the hard part.
Bam. Yeah, he's not out of touch. Nebraska still plays that game. They can still play that game, that NIL game, for instance, at a high level. At a high level.
I hate to say that you're right, but you are. I thanked him for the staff writing handwritten letters. And even Kristen, when she was in Kansas City, we just got hers on Thursday. So she came back from being out of town and said, hey, thank you. And I asked him about it, and he said, DB, people just have forgotten how to be good people. Like, it's just gotten away from us. I think your read is 100% spot on, Sip.
Oh, good. I appreciate that, Damon. And I see it, and I like it. I mean, it doesn't matter what I like. I think the fans should feel pretty comfortable with what's going on. Now, let's see what it looks like in a football sense. You got to win. But Rule, he's very bottom line oriented too. The last thing I'd say, and this kind of goes along with what I just said, I love what he said one day, that we are a caring program. We're not a coddling program.
100%.
We're a caring program. We're not a coddling program. And that, to me, goes with the wins and losses thing. There's still a bottom line element. You still got to, you have to produce with Rule. No matter what you do over there in terms of your job, player, assistant, support staff, there has to be production.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm confident.
You're on a roll this morning, Sip, man. You practically hit 1,000. I think your read is tremendous.
Well, God bless you.
Stephen Magnus Sipple from Husker Online. We appreciate it, Sip. We will talk to you again soon. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We are brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. It's the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets, either at the casino in Lincoln or Horseman's Park in Omaha. Make sure you get out there, whether it's NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, whether it's UFC this weekend we were talking about earlier. Make sure you get out to Warhorse Sportsbook. If you got any questions, need a little bit more info, go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook for a full list of details and house rules. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. Joining us now is Kevin Brockway. He covers Florida athletics for the Gainesville Sun. Kevin, how are you this morning?
Good, guys. How are you? How are things in, is it sunny in Omaha, or what's the weather?
It's a little overcast this morning, but not bad.
I'm a Four Seasons guy, and I know you Floridians kind of thumb your nose up at
like the landscaping, not the hotel.
It was a cool morning. It was 51, 52. We're only going to get into about the high 70s, a little humid, but that's okay, right? Like, it's still only the end of May, so we're trying to take this heat wave slow. Which you guys down there, you're like, hey, listen, it's Florida. This is what we do.
It's a friggin' sauna down here with the humidity. This is the uncomfortable time. This is the uncomfortable time of year. This isn't the necessarily the October to April are the best months down here, I would say.
I do love a sauna. I don't want to live in one, though.
Interesting. Okay.
Kevin, it's been a little bit of I don't know if hot seat's the right word for Florida's schedule and the season so far, but they did have a bit of a rough stretch during conference play from sort of the beginning of April all the way through mid-May, where they really struggled. How were they able to turn it around in time to still make a play for the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think taking 2 out of 3 at Georgia was big, obviously huge. And, you go into that series with Charlie Condon, but Florida basically outslugged them. I mean, they scored 30 runs. The last game that they needed to win the series was 19-11. And neither team really had much pitching. And I think that's really been the huge issue. And the reason for the inconsistency is pitching staff, starters, relievers, and then they kind of, Brandon Neely began the year as an all-SEC closer, but then they had to move him in the starting rotation because Cade Fisher didn't pan out as the Friday starter. But that didn't work either. And then they got Pierce Coppola back from injury in April and worked him into the starting rotation, but, he still couldn't really give you but 3 or 4 innings per start. So the bullpen was taxed. So, it's a 6.27 ERA is the worst in the SEC, but they did, obviously manage to hit, and this is a lineup, obviously with Jack Caglione, the two-way star, who's batting .415, 29 homers, and he's pitched okay.
Yeah.
Certainly a little better than last year, but I think there's been a lot of inconsistencies in pitching, and it's not a traditional Kevin O'Sullivan team where you have a bunch of aces on the mound.
Yeah, so this one's interesting. We were talking with Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball on Tuesday, and I was saying wouldn't surprise me at all if Cags didn't start. You're obviously going with the all-conference freshman and Liam Peterson. How important is it to not just to get the last 5 starts, Liam Peterson, the guy that's held hitters to 211, but the Liam Peterson that whose ERA keeps this game low scoring. Do you want to see this be offensive minded like the Georgia series, or do you think this team is better served to keep this thing kind of grimy and gritty?
Yeah, well, I think with, Brett Sears was no picnic, right? He's a Big Ten, pitcher of the year for a reason.
Yeah.
And so, the fascinating thing about this matchup, right, is that Brett Spears, I think 24 years and 1 month old, Liam Pearson, 18 years and 11 months. You talk about a contrast in age. But Peterson is a guy that, Kevin O'Sullivan talked about yesterday on the conference call. Had to learn to pitch with runners on base. That was kind of a big issue for him early in the season, and was prone to giving up home runs as well a little bit. But he's really kind of settled in and figured things out as a freshman. And he's obviously someone with a lot of ability. I mean, he's a guy that had he come out of high school, he would have been probably, taken within the first 5 rounds of the June amateur draft. That's where he was projected. So he's got the ability. He's starting to harness it. And I think the key for the whole weekend for Florida, and Kevin O'Sullivan mentioned this, is just getting length from the starters as well. If Peterson can give them 6 innings, if, Caglione the next day, I think he's definitely going to pitch Saturday regardless of the outcome. If he gives you 5 or 6 innings, and if Pierce Coppola can even give you 5 innings, it'll just, make things a little less stressed on the bullpen. And now you've got Brandon Neely in the back end where he's a little more comfortable. And Fisher Jameson has been another real reliable arm out of the bullpen as well for Florida. And I think those are the 2 veterans that they'll lean on if their starters, when their starters depart.
We're talking with Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun, talking a little Florida baseball as they will face Nebraska tomorrow. Kevin, this obviously not just at the top with Caglione, with the pop. There's a lot of guys with power in this lineup. If my math is right here, and that's a 50-50 proposition, you got 7 guys with double-digit homers on this roster. How excited were you to go to Stillwater with that kind of pop in that kind of ballpark?
Yeah, I think the ballpark suits them really well for this weekend for sure. But that being said, one of those 7 guys, Ty Evans, is done for the year with a broken wrist.
Mm-hmm.
In his 13 homers. And you guys probably remember last year, he went off in Omaha at the College World Series. So that's been a blow. And then the guy that replaced him, Hayden Yost, also tore his ACL in the Georgia series. So they've been a little thin in the outfield as a result. They've got Ashton Wilson now playing right field, a guy that's transferred from the College of Charleston who has hit the ball pretty well in the Georgia series as well. And has been a little bit of a pleasant surprise there. And then in center field, you're going with Michael Robertson, who's really known more for his defense. But yeah, you're right in terms of, Luke Heyman, 14 home runs, Tyler Shelnut, 13 home runs, Cade Curlin, 13 home runs. They've got a lot of Colby Shelton, obviously the shortstop transfer from Alabama with 18 home runs. They've got a lot of power threats up and down that lineup. I think the only issue is, with those big swings, they also strike out a lot, 9.3 per game. Although they're scoring 7 runs a game. They've been a home run field offense. Situational hitting has been an issue at times, leaving the bases loaded. Certainly, they had a chance to walk off Kentucky in one of the games that they lost in extra innings where they really couldn't execute in that kind of a situation. So they've really got to be able to, I think, if they can manufacture a few runs here and there too, that would be really big for their chances in Stillwater as well.
Interesting. So we talk about the gaudy numbers, and you got, I think, 6 or 7 guys in the lineup with double-digit home runs, and you hit over 2 a game. But is that the thing for you, or is it guys like, Coppola, who's going to have to pitch at some point? He's going to be next in the rotation. Is it the 6.27 team ERA not rearing its ugly head? What for you? Can Florida be Florida and still win the regional, or do they have to change some of the numbers?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to pitch better for sure. I said, that's been the big issue. But this is the first time Peterson is starting on Friday, which I think is interesting, and maybe something that could have been done a little sooner. Although you were trying to work his confidence back because he did have a minor injury in the Vanderbilt game that sidelined him for a couple of weeks. I think he was hit on the arm with a pitch, rather with a line drive and so forth. But I think with Peterson, because they had been starting Copel on Friday, and he just wasn't giving them the length, it affected the entire pitching staff for the weekend. So I think having Peterson at the front end could help in that regard because of the fact that you can get a little more length on the Friday, and it sets up your pitching a little better, for the whole weekend. That could be big. Jake Clemente is another freshman on the bullpen that's done really well. Luke McNeely has been inconsistent, but at times has saved big games for him. But Kevin O'Sullivan says he's got a little bit of a shoulder issue as well. So there are some young power arms that they have that I think are promising for the future as well. But I don't know how much, you rely on them in this kind of a high stakes situation, other than Peterson, who's obviously emerged as the best of the bunch.
Kevin doesn't mince words. Just from my experience interviewing him there at the CWS for years, he's very straightforward. Does this team have his personality, in your opinion, where they'll be aggressive and come at you?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's been interesting is Kevin O'Sullivan has said it's a hard team to figure out, and he thinks it's a good group of kids, like not necessarily attitude or discipline problems, but just getting them. I think getting that fire out of them has been maybe a little bit of an issue. So yeah, we're going to see this weekend, what these guys are really made of, because it's almost it's like a second chance because you're 28 and 27. Listen, Kevin O'Sullivan said he made no apologies about getting in the tournament because there was a lot of obviously talk on, Selection Monday last week about whether Florida deserved to get in, but number one strength of schedule in the country. They took 2 out of 3 from Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Georgia. I mean, those are 3 national seeds right there that they beat during the season, playing in the toughest conference in the country. So this is almost a second chance. And you look at what Ole Miss did a few years ago when they went 14 and 16 in the SEC. You just never know. You get hot at the right time, and things come together, and the pitching and the hitting click at the same time. I think Florida's capable of winning this regional, but they're going to have to, find ways to maybe, try to win in different ways as well. Not just relying on, hitting the ball out of the ballpark all weekend. They're going to have to do some other things here and pitch a little better than they have during the regular season in order to do it.
That's Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. Kevin, we appreciate your time and enjoy the regional.
All right. Thank you very much.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio tomorrow here, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, Camp Logan.